Yo, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, another episode of Caffeine and Green with your man, Connor Cardenas. And before we get into it today, I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my homies over at Steel Mill Coffee in Oceanside, California. If it wasn't for Steel Mill, we wouldn't have a place to do the podcast every single week. So again, thank you to Shay, Little C, Anna, Giles, and of course Riley. And if you're ever in the area, cruise by, say what up, grab a cup of coffee, and just enjoy it. Also, if you guys haven't already, head over to www.caffeineandgreenroasting.com today. Check out that Issa Blend coffee that we have. It's the OG, it's a classic, it's dark, it's chocolatey, and it's bold. We also have the new Victory Lap coffee inspired by my homegirl, Liav Clockley. It's a single origin Tanzania coffee, and it's very, very complex. It has a little bit of some citrus, a little bit of tropical flavors, a little bit of lemon, and a little bit of cacao. It's super amazing. You guys should definitely check it out today. So again, head over to www.caffeineandgreenroasting.com today. All right. My guest today is a new homie. He's a new shop owner for a coffee roaster called Storymakers. It's called Storymakers Coffee Roasters in Barrio Logan. It's awesome. Jeff is a great guy. I actually met him via Instagram, and then I ran into him at the Roasting Collective in San Marcos where I roast at. It was really, really awesome to hear his journey, hear his motivations, his just all-around story about how he found coffee, what motivates him, and of course, we talked about some hip-hop music. So, without further ado, my homeboy, Jeff Rambo. This is your time to shine, homie. Let's go.
Give me caffeine and green. It's your boy Connor. What's good? Good. Caffeine and green.
And we're live. Jeff Rambo.
What's up, brother?
Yes. Cheers.
Salute.
Oh, yeah. Do you know when you cheers somebody, you're supposed to look them right in the eye?
According to the Europeans, but, you know.
I mean, we're American.
Yeah, we are. And I get called out on it all the time when I'm out on a date and I'm cheersing and I'm looking down at the bar and it's like, you're supposed to look at me. I'm like, oh, wait, let's do it again. So, hey, we can do it again if you'd like.
Dude, well, I'm down. Okay, hold on. Salute.
Salute.
Dude, I told Liav that same thing. And Liav now, every time when she cheers me specifically, she'll...
Well, see, it's the opposite, too, because every now and then I'll get someone that's cheersing me, and they're like, we've got to make eye contact. And I'm like, yeah, but we've also got to pay homage to the bar, and you've got to tap it, because a lot of people don't do that.
Dude, the tap thing is like some people are like, what do you do with the tap? Okay, sorry. I totally had too many ideas in my head. They say it negates it, the cheers. I don't know about that, because I've always done that.
You know, it all depends on which side of the Mason-Dixon you're on, so... I've always done it too, but I do predominantly hang out in a lot of Mexican bars, and that's I think it's actually like a Hispanic culture thing, but being in a lot of Mexican bars, I tend to find that to be the norm. So
I feel like a bad Mexican because I can't really contribute to this conversation. I don't know. I mean, like, I am Mexican, but like maybe that's why I've always been like taught you're like salud, boom, and you hit it.
Well, I mean, at least you're doing that part, so that would make you somewhat of a good Mexican.
I mean, but it's like. I guess it might be ignorance. I don't know. Like, is it like part of the
definitely
the
not ignorance?
thing?
But we should probably like detour off this topic because I might come off. It's like, wait.
No worries. We'll move into it. But okay, so Jeff Rambo, the best last name. Period. Shay actually recommended that I'm not gonna tell you. Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna tell you.
Whoa.
It's gonna be tight. Is what's gonna happen. But the reason you're on the podcast, sir, you are a coffee roaster.
I am a coffee roaster, or at least I'd like to believe that I'm a coffee roaster, still coming into my form.
Coffee roaster.
Nowhere near your caliber, but I'll get there.
But you're a shop owner
as
well, so you're both.
Coffee roaster, soon to be shop owner of the newly opening Storymakers Coffee over in Barrio Logan.
Yep, brewed in the barrio.
Brewed in the barrio, made in San Diego, and made in San Diego with love.
Are you Hispanic?
I am not, but surprising to most, I do speak Spanish. So
do you really?
So maybe I might throw my card on the table.
Okay.
It's been a few years removed since speaking it on a daily basis, so it's not as fluent as I'd like it to be. But every time I'm speaking to someone, I'm like, "Más despacio, por favor," and I get it out there.
Okay.
I can understand it fluently though, not as good as I can speak it these days, but I do speak Spanish.
Damn, how long have you been speaking Spanish?
Well, I gravitate toward a certain thing in life. So being that I've been doing that all of my adult life, I'd say probably 16 years now. And then I took it.
Damn.
Took it in high school, took it in school, and then for work purposes, decided to learn it. So
Yep. Tight.
And now we're in Barrio Logan, so it definitely fits in over there.
Barrio.
Yeah.
Dude, hell yeah. I was about to just drop an F-bomb. I don't know how to do that.
Hey, it's your show. You know?
I know, but this is totally off topic. We're getting away from you being the reason we're doing the interview.
We can turn this
But
around, though, and make it about...
No, it was... I was listening to a podcast one time of... it was my friend Katie Jones, and she's hella funny. And then it was like another doctor that we had on there. Her name was Claire, and I just like, dude, within the first 15 minutes, I was dropping hella F-bombs. I was just like, I don't need to be swearing that much. So I've tried to like,
You got to wean it off a little bit now and then.
tone it down a little bit. You can express yourself through a more eloquent vocabulary, if you will.
But sometimes the F-bomb's the best adjective that you can use. You know,
It's a verb. It's
it's in everything. It's in everything.
Okay. Anyways, so you own Storymakers Coffee Roasters. That's the full name.
Yes, sir. Storymakers Coffee Roasters.
And first off, tell me about the name.
Ooh, that's going to unpack a lot. That might just cover the whole podcast right there. But, you know, growing up in L.A., lifelong Laker fan, and rest his soul, Kobe Bryant, one of the best storytellers of all times. I grew up always wanting to be in journalism and use that platform and that medium to tell stories. And as I became more and more into coffee culture, I realized that, yeah, you pick up a bag of coffee and you can read a lot about the roaster sometimes. Sometimes you can't even read about the roaster, but more often than not, you pick up a bag of coffee and there's a story of the roaster. But very, very rarely is there the story of the actual producer that made that coffee possible. So coupling my love for storytelling with my love for coffee, it's like, hey, let's tell the story of the producers, because ultimately they are the ones that make this possible. You know, if you're studying for a graduate program, or you're writing your thesis, or you're writing a screenplay, or you're studying for the bar exam in a coffee shop, that coffee is your fuel. But do you ever actually stop to think about the producers that made it happen? Sure, we as roasters roast it. You know, we take that green product and turn it into a consumable product, but we tend to push out the producers and we really don't tell their story. So Storymakers was born in the sense of, hey, let's tell the story of the producers and let's make it about them and not about us.
Okay. And that was one thing actually that I wanted to ask you about. And kind of like, as a first-time coffee shop owner, like for yourself and like as just a coffee business owner as well, I've lived and breathed in a cafe. One of the things that was in that that mission statement that you had sent me, you said that you want to have like only pour overs, and really having that connection with your community in a sense, or the people who are frequenting your spot every day.
Right.
What happens? My first question is because, working in a cafe, especially on a hot summer day in San Diego, nonetheless, and what are you going to do to combat those people that like, yo, I just want my coffee to go super quick?
I was just having this conversation the other day, and it's like, you've got to hold true to your core. And luckily where we're at and the approach that I take to everything in life, not just coffee, not just business, but there's something out there for everybody. And I'm never going to say you're wrong for wanting it, but I'm also never going to say that you're wrong for going somewhere else because they have it and we don't. So being that I want to focus on the pour over aspect of filter coffee, if someone is in a hurry, I'll gladly recommend, hey, can't make you a drip coffee right now, but I can do an Americano for you. That won't take as long as a pour over. But if you do want that filter coffee, we've got Cafe Moto across the street. We've got Por Vida down the street, Cafe Virtuoso down the street. Great coffee, absolutely great coffee. But here we're focusing on the manual brewing aspect of things. But we do have the espresso machine, which is interesting. I don't know if you noticed, but I did send you that mission statement. We've evolved since then. So the espresso machine's there now. We originally weren't even going to do espresso, and that was that was just a talk with both myself and my partner, and it was like, yeah, you know, you don't really like, and this is me talking to Nas, my partner. It's like, yeah, you don't really like pour over coffee. You don't really like black coffee. I love it. That's my life. But we're going in this together, so we both have to put something presentable to our customers that we both can speak to and both have loves for ourselves. So that's how the espresso machine came in there.
Before we get to, I was about to start asking you a bunch of
No, go.
questions about Nas, but before we get into who Nas is, tell me who Nas is for people who are just listening.
So, you know, Nas, also known as the head of vibes.
Head of Vibe,
Head
is that
of
what she
Vibes,
said?
Yes. I'm the chief coffee geek. She's the head of Vibe. So when you walk into Storymakers and you're taking that first sip of coffee, you know, that's probably a product of me, good or bad. But when you're actually looking at the aesthetic of the place and like, damn, this looks good, and you feel like you're at home or you feel like you're in a cool shop, that's all her, because she's the head of Vibe. So, you know, I let her stay in her lane. She lets me stay in my lane, and we coexist like that.
Tight.
But no, Nas is just one of my really good friends, and I've had this, and we can unwrap this as the podcast progresses, but I've had this dream of going into coffee for a very, very long time. And over the last couple of years, had some things happen that basically, you know, I've always had outlets: running, martial arts, basketball, baseball, but I needed something a little bit more, especially over the last few years. And it was finally 2019 where I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to make this a reality. And some of your past guests, or one of your past guests in particular, was one of the several people that inspired me to just say, hey, you know what, stop talking about it. Let's just be about it. And,
Don't talk about it, be about it. Yeah, so I say that
exactly.
shit all the time.
Hey, you know, that's how you should live life. Like, less talk, more action.
That's popping.
But 2019, 2020, it was like, hey, let's get after it. Let's just stop talking about it. Let's get after it. So 2019 into 2020, I started forming the idea for Storymakers in my head, which, oddly enough, I actually came up with the Storymakers name back in 2017, and I can actually remember the day and what I was doing. But came up with the name 2017, but actually putting pen to paper and planning it out happened 2019 into 2020, and met Nas, and I was talking to her one day about what I want to do with coffee, and not just what I want to do with that end product, but how do I want to make an impact on the lives and the sustainability of the producers and the coffee that they're producing, not just for us as Storymakers, but for the greater coffee community. And I was just like throwing ideas off of her just on a friendly tip, like, hey, you know, I want to do this, I want to do this. Like, maybe we can take trips down there and bring books to their kids and help educate them and provide some type of change other than just money, because that's the problem with the American culture. We just want to throw money at a problem and we think that that's going to fix it. But sometimes, more often than not, money creates a bigger problem. And we just started bouncing ideas off of each other. And one of the things that she mentioned to me was like, well, what about healthcare? Do they have healthcare? And I couldn't really answer that question. So I actually I got with one of my homies down in Oaxaca. Shout out to Kate. Kate's a roaster down in Oaxaca. She's an expat living down there, owns her own roasting company and cafe, and now just recently started importing and exporting, I guess, depending on which side of the border you're on. But I was talking to her, and I'm like, hey, you know, what's the healthcare situation like with producers down in Oaxaca? And not just Oaxaca, but since she's down there, I asked her specific to Oaxaca. And she's like, well, actually, you know, in terms of prioritizing things, people prioritize putting food on the table. People prioritize putting clothes on their backs and getting from point A to point B. And they put healthcare off because they just feel as if, hey, you know, I've got a common cold. It's going to pass tomorrow, or it's going to pass next week. And, you know, I'm definitely no medical expert. You know, I've got my medical degree out of a Cracker Jack box, as I like to say. But the more you put off things, the bigger problem you eventually have. And I shared this with Nas, and I'm not going into specifics, just out of respect to her privacy. And sorry, guys, she couldn't be here today. But she has a background in medicine, and she's like, oh, you know, I love community health. It would be awesome if, you know, while you're doing your coffee thing, I can travel with you and provide healthcare to these farm workers and these producers. And I'm like, oh, wait, let me think about that for a second. How would that look in a business sense? And you know, we were hanging out that night, catching up, and I went home, and I was like, well, wait a second. What if Storymakers was me making a difference by providing my brand of coffee, but also giving back in the form of healthcare, free healthcare to the producers that we source from. And the next day I was like, hey, would you be interested in being my business partner? Here's how you could fit in. And I basically pitched her on the spot, and she's like, I love it. I'm going to say yes, but let me think about it. And not more than, I'd say, 72 hours later, she was like, where do I sign? And we've been business partners since. So, you know.
And that was in 2019?
This was 2020.
2020,
Yep.
So last year.
Yep, last year.
Damn.
Yeah, so we put pen to paper, made it official, June of 2020. Didn't have a space, didn't have anything that we have right now. And I mean, you saw our setup.
Dude, your spot is awesome.
It's gotten better since
It's
you stopped
beautiful.
by.
It's beautiful. I love it.
We did a slight remodel over the last week. It looks even
Already?
better. Yeah. It looks, it literally, like, it had that vibe before Kano, but now you walk in and you're like, oh shit, this is real. This is a real
It was
deal.
already a vibe, you know.
It was a vibe, but you know, it was a little cramped up in that L-shaped bar that we had set up. So it's actually a rectangular bar now.
Shit, because I was working on your edit today. I literally, bro, I broke it. I'm almost done.
Well, you can always stop by again, but
Nah, I'm gonna edit this. I'm just gonna put it out.
Yeah,
But like, I'll definitely come by. Like,
no, for sure. And this time I won't be a little inebriated off of an old fashioned, so I'll make sure I tamp that
dude,
right.
you were not even like were you that inebriated?
Bro, it was. I don't know if I
Stop
told you
playing.
this, but you know, we'll have to tell the backstory for the listeners out there. But I haven't picked up hard alcohol in about 4 months. I've been drinking wine. You know, I love my wine.
It's a you drank with me like
Dude,
that?
That was the first time I've had an old fashioned since I want to say like November of last year.
Bro, you made them pretty strong too.
It was a free pour. You know, I wasn't using the jigger.
But
was a free
it
pour.
definitely was a free pour. I remember watching you pour it. I was like, no, this fool's making it. Like, I thought because of how heavy you poured the drink that I thought that was like just your regular.
Nah, I probably would have dosed it down a little bit.
Jesus. Yeah, because like I was fine. Like, I mean, but that sounds really bad to say, but because like I talk to a lot of different people, the first thing most people want to do is like, hey, you want to grab a drink? It's like,
Right.
So I limit myself to like 2 to 3, but like even 3, it's like, nah, dude. Like now I'm down to like 2, maybe 1, and then it's like, okay, gotta go, because like you go work out,
no,
you know,
100%.
do these other things. Like
100%. And
can't be drinking like crazy.
no, you can, unless you're, you know, that's just how you function. But you know, it's funny that drinking for me, you know, it's interesting because I used to own a how I like to call it, a failed brewery endeavor, but drinking culture, and not just limited to alcohol, but drinking culture for me, it's like a communal thing. And in my household growing up, my mom was just like so warming, so full of warmth and so inviting that you walk in the door, she either was offering you a beer, she was offering you a Coke, or she was offering you dinner. And that's just how things go. So it's like when you walked in, I walk in, I'm like, hey, Kano, you want an old fashioned? Like, I want to whip it up.
I was so down. I couldn't believe you were doing that. I was like, but then you were the ice machine. You were like, I guess we're not having old fashions.
And that's why I love Nas. That's why I love Nas. So just to add some context to that, you know, I walk in like, oh yes, I'm gonna make Kano an old fashioned, and then I go to lift up the ice machine, and there's no ice there, melted overnight. So Nas is like, oh, I'll go get some ice, and I'm like, this is why we work together so well. Because I was about to give up. I was just about all right, we've got some
well, yeah,
beer.
you brought beer though too.
I
You
was
brought
like,
like this
yep.
like stout or something,
Yep,
right?
the Nitro Milk Stout from Left Hand Brewing, one of my favorite stouts. But I was like, yeah,
That's right. You're a beer guy. You're a legit beer guy too.
I don't know about legit beer guy because I'm a stout drinker in San Diego where we love our IPAs, but you know.
I mean, like, what I meant by that was you know your beers. You were describing to me about this 'cause, like, while we were drinking the whole
Right. No, I definitely love beer, and you know, it's funny because this will segue into the coffee talk. I never was a beer guy. I really wasn't. I grew up in a household where my mom drank Heineken. And like for me, that was like the king of all beers because that's what I saw my mom drinking.
For sure.
And 2007, I moved to San Diego. And now San Diego being what it is, one of the beer capitals of not just the U.S., but the world, I'm in this vast world of craft beer. And fast forward 2012. I'm in Small Bar in University Heights.
Damn, I haven't heard that name in a minute.
It's been a minute, right?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. That place has so many memories for me. That was the after-work spot for us. But I was in small bar, and if you remember, they had those like communal tables, like it was like a picnic bench almost, and I'm just sitting there, and there was literally like asses to elbows, and they're packed, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's this girl, and she's like, "Hey, can me and my friend sit with you guys?" And it's just me and one of my boys from work, and we're like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead, sit down." And dude, I was drinking a Lindemans, and don't laugh. You know, I'm about to walk over to my bag and bring you my man card if you ask for it. But I was drinking a Lindemans Framboise. And
Bro, I don't even know what that is.
So it's like this raspberry sour like beer, and it's just like it basically should be a wine cooler, but it was a beer nevertheless.
Hey, was it tasty?
It was bomb.
It's a tasty bev. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, bro. If it's a tasty bev, drink that shit.
Facts.
There you go.
I'm glad we're on the same
No
page
judgment
about
from
that.
me, G.
No judgment should be given.
All right.
So, I was drinking this Lindemans, and fill the tab, turn over. It's this girl. She's like, "Hey, can me and my friend sit down?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead, sit down." And I go back to the conversation with my boy, and she starts interjecting, and I'm like, this is like an A and B conversation. It's like, I'm talking to my boy. We're talking about work stuff, and she's just like persistent. And I'm like, okay, well, let's invite you into the conversation. And her friends are off having a conversation in their own, and she wants to be invited to ours. So 2, maybe 3 hours later, we're like 7 beers in, and she
7 beers, and y'all turn
7 beers in at this point, and not just like 7 beers, but like 7 beers. Like I went from 4.5 AB alcohol content to probably like stepping it up to the 12s. Because she was putting them down, and
she was putting them down.
Okay. And she was making me pace, and I was like, I got to keep up. But she took the first sip of my beer when she first sat down. She's just like super bold and ballsy, and she's like, "What are you drinking? I've got to like."
This
step
is definitely pre-COVID.
This was way pre-COVID. No one was walking around in masks, and we were still giving shit to people that wore masks at Disneyland at this time. But fast forward, present day, we're definitely walking out of the house with masks.
Yes.
But
back to the story.
Yes, back to the story. Sorry. She took a sip out of my beer. She's like, "What are you drinking?" Like, I've got to teach you about beer. But point being is that I never met this girl in my life prior to her tapping me on the shoulder. But we walked out of that place as damn near best friends, and that was just a reminder of my childhood, where it's just like beverages, food, it's so communal, where you can walk into a place as a stranger and leave out of there as best friends. And literally it was like completely platonic, no romance involved whatsoever, but me and this person just became really, really, really good friends. And she taught me about the beer world, and she was working for Ballast Point at the time. She was super into craft beer. Excuse me.
Was she a brewer?
So she was trying to get into brewing. She was working quality control, if I recall correctly.
Oh, wow.
For Ballast Point at the time, working in their air quotes lab. They probably like legit do have a lab.
They for sure have a lab.
Yeah, like now especially, but that's all. We'll get into that later. But she was working in their quality control area, and she was a home brewer, and she just loved beer. Like how some people could talk about coffee, she talked about beer. And I was like, whoa, I never knew that there was a world outside of Heineken. And she just introduced me to it, and then the next thing you know, I was at the best damn beer shop in San Diego downtown buying homebrewing equipment, and learned how to homebrew, and was homebrewing for months, just grinding away.
So wait, you're like a nerd, like you're meticulous.
See, that's the thing. I'm not a nerd, like, not to steal a line from Gary Vaynerchuk, but I damn near was a DNF student when it came to like math and hard sciences and stuff like that. I more so gravitated, like my report card literally fucking said D's
D
and F's.
and F.
Yeah.
I thought it was like an acronym.
No. Sorry. Every now and then that New Orleans drawl that my mom imparted on me will come out, but no, like when it came to math and science, like, it was not for me. Like,
for real?
Open a history book, I'm there with you, bro. Open, poli-sci book, I'm there with you. Like, I like that type of stuff, but like math and science, it never was for me. Probably still isn't to this day.
Did I fuck with science tough?
Then I'm gonna have to.
Science.
I'm gonna have to put you in my back pocket.
Biology and chemistry.
yeah, it's
That's
not
what used to do it for me.
not for me, which probably explains why I'm like looking at cropster graphs. Like, what the hell does this even mean?
But see, you don't have to be a nerd to be into that shit, though.
You don't
like,
but
you're a nerd by technicality, but
Yeah.
like, you don't have to look or act like a fucking nerd to be into science.
No,
You feel me?
1,000%, 1,000% on that. And that's what I love about coffee. But as far as the question in the sense of, hey, you were probably a nerd, it's just like, no, I don't like half-assing things. It's like when I put my first foot or left foot or right foot, whatever the foot may be, forward, I'm going to put the other one forward right after it, but I'm going to be on Google University, getting that Google diploma, trying to learn everything. Exactly. YouTube. I was talking to my barber today. He told me he learned how to change his transmission on YouTube. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to submit plans to the city by Googling it rather than hiring a $2,400 consultant. It's like, why go pay someone else to do something when I can learn how to do it myself? Or why go enjoy something from someone else when I can figure out how to do it myself so that I can be on their level?
Time. It's all time.
It's all time.
I
Patience.
can tell you right now,
it's a process.
Patience, yes, but time is so valuable.
It is.
Dude,
it is.
the days go by like this. That's why, like, I mean, I'm just in response. This isn't, I'm not trying to, like, cut you off.
No, go
It's
for it.
like,
Go for it.
excuse me. Oh, my goodness. It's time, bro. Just to be able to sit there and learn whatever you want. Like, I mean, I've talked about this before on the podcast, but with COVID, when COVID was, like, when we didn't know what the hell was going on, all this stuff, and I was just sitting in my house, I literally was like, I bought Final Cut Pro, and then I just bought books, and then I just did it. And luckily I was already filming, and then I was able to go film some of my friends during the pandemic who were like, social distancing, of course, super in heavy effect. But I was able to take the time, hours, bro. I would sit in front of my computer for like 14 hours. I'd take a couple breaks, and because I was living in this room, and the world was, for what we knew potentially was ending. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go outside if they're like saying the shit's in the air or something like that, and like go smoke a spliff. So I was just like ashtray next to my computer, just like smoking spliffs and drinking wine and just learning how to do Final Cut.
I like the combo.
It was ridiculous, but I mean, bro, like learning never stops, and learning is always forever changing, and I love it. It's so exciting.
1,000%. And I'm glad you said that, because that's the thing that we get so short-sighted of, is that learning never stops. But some people, we live in a generation, and this isn't by far a label that I attach to everybody, but we live in a microwave generation where everybody just wants to put something in the microwave, press a button, 30 seconds later they get it. It's like, no, it takes time.
Bro, you skip the process, you skip everything that comes with the process.
And you don't appreciate it. You just think, oh crap, I pressed a button, now I have it. Yeah. It's like, but how did you get there? Like, what went into it? And that's
a lot of mistakes, giving like trial and error, bro.
Yeah, 1,000%.
With coffee especially. But what's great about coffee when you do that is that it's real time.
Yeah.
You can, and this is not to throw shade at the collective at all, but because they don't let you cup right out of the roaster, it's definitely changed my roasting method, because what I do in real time for the last 5 years, except for being at the collective, is that I have always, as soon as out of the roast, I'll take like a scoop.
Right.
And then I'll take like a Pyrex, maybe like a 1 cup.
Yep.
Yeah. Put 1 scoop, which is like off the V60 filter, the Hario.
Right.
That's enough. It's, I don't know, 10 grams, something like that, 11 grams, if you will. Maybe less. Sorry for you good coffee people. You put it in there, grind it up to like a French press, hot thing, let it sit there, steep for like 4 minutes. The same coarse grind as like a French press.
Right.
Which, a bigger surface area to extract. Yeah.
Right, to extract them.
And then you're getting essentially what it's tasting like. And in real time, you're able to tell. It's like, that was off. Like, let me make some real time adjustments.
Right.
I haven't been able to do that, which, that's been, 6 months, 8 months now. Whenever I get a warehouse, that'll change and it'll go back and it'll be fine. But it's made me adapt as a roaster, because now it's like, you really have to trust your gut.
Right. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust what you're seeing. You have to trust what you're smelling.
But see, at the same time, like, I still have my, like, for lack of a better term, like a qualm. Like, it's not a qualm, or like, because I don't want to say issue, because obviously Cropster is amazing, but like I was taught by a person who went off feel, and I was also taught by a person who went off graphs and other things. There's so much room for error when it comes to bean probes, and it also comes to placement of the probes.
Right.
What size of the probe? This, that, and this. Like, are you really getting real time? Is that graph really a real? Like, my espresso that we have here at Steel Mill, if you look at the graph wouldn't be what Scott Rao says is acceptable.
Right.
It would, but Joe Morocco at the same time is like, did it taste good?
Right. And, I was about to ask you, does it taste good?
And it's Joe Morocco.
Yeah.
And Joe Morocco, when, if you're looking at shout out Joe, yo, I love you. You're a homie. If he has my espresso and he said what he said to me about my espresso, which was like the best thing that ever happened, I don't give a fuck about what a Cropster roast profile says. I know that I felt it, and I know what it tastes good. And the people who, in my opinion, hold like the highest level of opinion, and when it comes to specialty coffee, says it's like the best thing.
Right.
Bro, I'm gonna go off that.
No, it means a lot to you.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to replicate it. Like, I know in my head that it doesn't look how Scott Rao says it. Cause like I also take what Scott. I don't know Scott.
Right.
But I read his books. His books have helped me become a better roaster. Joe Morocco's helped me become a better roaster. Everybody that I've met has had an influence on me roasting. So I take all of it into account. But at the same time, at the end of the day, like my mentor said to me, at the end of the day, if like that cup of coffee is sitting there and it's 20 minutes cold and you pick it up and it still tastes good, like, damn, that's a good cup of coffee.
Exactly.
You feel me? Like, that's what's popping.
100%. And I think with that, the struggle that I have as a newer roaster is replicating that, because I've had that where it's like I roast a coffee, I drop it, I let it settle for a couple of days, put it on the EK, make it into a 360.
Wait. Well, I'm going to stop you right
Go
there.
ahead,
And I don't mean to cut you off, but like already right there, that my first problem with that is you let it rest for a couple of days. You don't cup it immediately the next day?
No, I cup it, but I'm talking about as far as actually drinking it to enjoy it.
But see, what do you mean though? Because if you cup it the next day, that cup of coffee should be, even if it came fresh out the roaster, I don't care if it's the same day or the next day or the following day, because they say you're supposed to cup within 24 to 48 hours, correct? Post-roast.
Right.
To the specialty coffee association, whatever. But like, that coffee should give you a better idea. Like, if you're cupping it 24 to 48, it's like, yo, that's fire. It's good. As it rests, 4 days in, 5 days in, like, yo, by day 9, peak flavor should already have been there.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But there's a big indicator within the first day or two. Like, yo, you could drink that shit right out the roaster, and it'll be fine. It'll be fire.
And that's the thing that is so beautiful about coffee. It's so subjective, because you go on a site like Home Barista, and they're telling you, oh, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. And then 3 posts down, no, it can be this way. And then 4 posts down, it's someone respected, like, James Hoffman saying, oh, no, it can be this way. And then everybody just has this like mind warp of, oh, okay, we've been doing it wrong. So cupping, 100%, and I told you a little bit about my air quote origin story as far as roasting goes. And I started roasting maybe like
on a home roaster on your stove.
Well, on a home roaster on the stove, yeah, stovetop. But as far as like going at it full time, like week after week, just like religiously, like I'm roasting for the sake of enjoying coffee that I'm not getting from some random place down the street or 30 minutes away when I was living in Virginia. It was 2017. But then I had no clue what I was doing. It was just like literally for convenience at that point. It was, I don't want to drive into D.C., and I was living in Northern Virginia at the time. I don't want to drive into D.C. every single day to get coffee, and I also don't want to buy whole bean bags that I'm going to like not really be filling a couple of days later. So let me just roast at home. So I bought a Baymore 1600, started roasting. I didn't know what the fuck cupping was. Like,
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, unless you're in a specialty coffee.
not like
yeah.
I had no clue what cupping was, and at that point, I'm just roasting for the enjoyment of, I love coffee, and I know what good coffee is to me, and I know what bad coffee is to me, and I'm going to roast it the way that I know to be good, as far as what it looks like and what it smells like, because that's the only thing that I can go off. The only two senses that I could go off of at the time, especially with such a what's the right word without butchering this, a limited roaster as the 1600 is. It's literally looks like a toaster oven. You press a couple of buttons and 10, 12 minutes later out pops your 1 pound roast.
Hey, don't knock it though, bro.
No,
you can do anything with anything.
You can.
Does that make sense?
Hey, there's a dude over in City Heights, an Ethiopian restaurant, firing up some bomb Yirchef in a cast iron skillet. So you can do anything with anything for sure. But that's what going back to the earlier point. I'm like looking up, how do you roast coffee? Okay, here are the do's and don'ts of roasting coffee. Let it settle for a couple of days so that it degasses. So that's what I would do. And then I'd grind it and, make a pour over. So kind of speaking to that point, there's been points where I've made great coffee, back at home on my home roaster and now being at the collective. But then trying to replicate it the next week or days later, it's like, oh crap, I can't replicate it. And that's,
are you not saving your profiles?
So this is a thing, and it's my OCD. And shout out to Elliot the other day. I was roasting a couple of batches, and I just dropped the batch like super early. I was like, this is going to turn out to be shit. So I dropped the batch, wasted some really good coffee.
What?
But yeah, exactly. It's just like, that's how much of a perfectionist that I am at times. But I was like, yeah, this is shitty. And then I roasted another batch after that, and I was like, yeah, that profile doesn't look right. But that's the problem. This is speaking to what you're speaking to. I'm so attached to this new world of looking at a cropster profile and looking at a roast curve that when it doesn't look like what a roast curve is supposed to look like, it's like, oh, this is going to be bad coffee. Boom, delete.
Bro, stop that.
No,
I'm going to tell you right now, stop that shit.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I'm trying to. Yeah. And it's like I'm making a cognizant effort to do it, but it speaks to those two different worlds. And, we're just using this as an example. You have the roast by sight, roast by observation, roast by feel, roast by does it taste good crowd, and then you have the roast by roast curve crowd. And I'm trying to find my happy lane in between the two. Mm-hmm. And it speaks to what you also mentioned, having a mentor. That's very big. Like
the mentor, dude, that's a big thing I talk about.
Yeah.
The mentorship, the apprenticeship, whatever.
Yep.
That's extremely important.
It's very important. It's like, for people that come to learn my story as far as how I came into coffee, like I've never worked in a coffee shop before. I've never been a barista before. I've never been a roaster before. I'm just someone who loves coffee. And as years went by, I found out what better coffee was and how many hands and how many people were involved in producing it, that I fell in love with it even more. And I just was like, one day I want to make this not just a passion, not just a hobby. I want to make something bigger out of it. So I just was fortunate enough to be able to be in the position that I'm in now with Nas opening Storymakers. So it's not like I come from that background. So it's like I'm unlearning things that I just learned 2 weeks ago. And, shout out to...
Wait, what happened with Elliot? You just said shout out to Elliot, but you...
Oh, no. So I dropped that batch and I went over to the trash can and I was pouring the...
What?
Yeah, I was roasting on the Mill City. So it was like a 200-gram batch, but, 200 grams nevertheless. But I went over to the trash can and, I dropped it when it was still damn near green, bro. Like, it was just like... It was just bad. It was just bad news.
Okay.
It's a new coffee I never roasted before, and it goes back to something that I've heard you say on the podcast. It's like when you can jump on any roaster and roast any coffee, that's when you're a coffee roaster. So
whoa, bro, you were the first person who's ever said that shit to me.
It's facts. It's facts because and full disclosure, like I told you before, making the jump from being a home roaster to now needing consistent coffee. I was like, hey, how can I make sure my coffee is the best coffee that I personally can produce, consistency-wise?
Yep.
I hired someone to consult me, and that's being Scott Rayo. So,
is it Rayo or Rao?
Rayo.
It is Rayo.
Yeah.
Okay, I always say Scott Rao, but it's Scott Rayo.
I don't think he'll be offended, but to the best of my knowledge, it's Rayo. So I hired Scott Rayo. He's consulting me on just basically telling me the do's and don'ts and just looking at my profiles and, steering me from left to right and wrong. And it's interesting unlearning things that I learned 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. And then I put practice into application, and it's like, that didn't turn out the way I thought it would, or it didn't turn out the way that he said it would. And it's to no discredit of him. Are we still connected there?
Yeah,
okay.
You're good.
It's not to discredit Scott, because he's phenomenal at what he does, but with the current times that we live in, being COVID, a lot of the consulting is being done via email or phone calls. And I'm a visual learner, but I'm also a learner by actually doing. So when I can look over your shoulder and see you doing something, I can replicate it, like no questions.
But see, that's the thing right there, bro. I'm gonna stop you right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about replicating. And like when you're learning and you're trying to find your voice, and like I sound so like overly exaggerated, like, or poetic in a sense, but it's like I really do mean this. Like when you're trying to find your voice as a roaster, you can't go based off a fucking profile.
No, you can't.
You can't, bro. You need to learn to feel the coffee. You need to learn to like. There's so much. I mean, we're always talking about learning. You have to know about the regions. You have to. You have to get some years like in that under your belt to really understand like a difference between a Katuiai. I don't know. I've heard different people say it's like Katuiai or Katuai. A red bourbon, a yellow bourbon, like an SR or SR 79 or whatever acronym they have for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A Robusta, just different types of Arabicas, whatever.
Yep.
You have to know and be put in these situations and really fail to understand really what you can and cannot do. I don't think that's any to fault of even in just emails with Scott personally. I would imagine like that dude grew up in coffee. Like if you read his books, he talks about like creating blends that he didn't even know what they were doing. And it was like he couldn't even replicate the beans because he didn't know the profile percentages, right?
Right.
That dude has an understanding of coffee that almost nobody can replicate.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's safe to say. I mean, it's kind of like Kobe on the basketball court, or these days LeBron on the basketball court. Like, I just
excuse me, Curry. Curry.
Hey, no disrespect to Chef Curry. It pains me to say this sometimes. I am one of the biggest Dubs fan that you will ever meet, but I grew up in LA, born and raised. So I gotta rep my Lakers.
100%. I grew up in the Bay. That's why.
No, no disrespect intended at all. We can talk basketball all day long.
That's a different podcast.
That is a different podcast. But it's like Kobe on the basketball court or LeBron these days. And this was just I forgot who said it the other week. I was watching an interview, and someone was like, "Hey, Bron's coming down the court, calling out our plays," and that's Scott. It's like he can look at a profile. It's like, hey, at the 10-minute mark, you need to drop your temperature this much, or you need to raise your temperature this much. But it doesn't translate to me. It's like, how do you know that? Why do you know that? And it's like so far over my head, but it's because I don't understand that aspect of roasting. And this might blow your mind, but when you were over at the cafe taking the photos for the podcast, that coffee that you had on espresso,
it was a Guatemala, right?
It was a Guatemala.
Yeah.
Do you know where I roasted that?
What do you mean?
Do you know where I roasted that?
Where?
Physically where?
Like donde?
Yes.
No.
I'm
assuming it's not at the Collective.
It was not at the Collective. I roasted it in my kitchen on my Baymore 1600. And
really?
Yeah.
That makes it taste even better.
And that was a fundamental shift for me about 3 weeks ago, where I'm like beating myself up like nonstop throughout the day. It was that day where I was roasting and I dropped the batch in the trash, and Elliot's like, dude, don't beat yourself up so much. And I'm like, yeah, but it's hard not to, because I'm being told that this is not what a roast profile is supposed to look like. And he's like, dude.
But who's telling you that?
That side of the coffee roasting community, no one in particular, but that side of the coffee roasting community. And it's like, I'm driving back from San Marcos back down to downtown, and I'm like, you know what? I just got to go back to my roots. I had some coffee from freaking Sweet Maria's, fired it up at my Baymore 1600, and boom, it came out. It looked beautiful, smelled amazing.
Yeah.
Day later, tasted it. It's like, this is pretty good. I took it over to the shop, dumped it into the grinder, and that's where it was sitting. And then a day later, you came over, and it's like, you know, minus my tapping snafu with the old-fashioned inebriation, it's like, I felt confident giving you that coffee.
Yeah.
But then the Ethiopia Wish Wish, I roasted that at the collective. And it's like, I'm looking at the curve. And it's like, something's not here, but I'm still going to take this one to the shop and try it out.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now, where it's like I'm struggling for that consistency because I'm so focused on what the computer is telling me to do rather than what I need to do.
Okay, I have a couple things for you.
Go for
First of all, the whoosh whoosh. It was interesting that you gave me. I tried that one because you made me a pour over that.
Yeah, that was the pour over I made on the C70.
Yeah. So I actually have Elliot, ironically, gave me a pour over of that as well when I was at the collective, actually.
That same like general week?
That same coffee.
Yeah.
The exact same coffee.
Okay.
And so I had your version and I had his. And I had his in my brain. It was before Christmas because I was packing some coffee on that sick ass
that new packer
heat sealer thing that they have, and he's like, Connor, you like tasting something funky? And that's what he said to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm super down. Like, I mean, in my opinion, that means that it's going to be a complex coffee.
Right.
Okay. He brings it over to me, and it was like the most floral, beautiful tasting coffee, and I'm like, of course, fucking Elliot roasted this. Like, it's perfect, you know. And I had yours, and yours was definitely different tasting.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way though. It's a different taste.
Right.
But that being said, is that it's good to have those comparisons, but this is where, bro, like, it pains me to hear you say this because I definitely find myself sometimes watching the roast profiles, but I also, bro, I have no shame in like having my best roast profile as the background, and then I replicate.
Right.
But I also write down in real time. And my friend Siri Cimarron, she's the fucking awesomest. But she was like, "Oh, you're analog."
Analog, yeah.
She called me analog.
I remember
was
that
like,
episode.
What the fuck do you mean analog? Like, nah, son. I have real time and I have
Bro.
I like writing out things. Like, I love the computer. I do. I'm on my computer all day. I have this big ass computer. I have this small ass computer. I have my notebooks. I carry around 2 notebooks on me at all times. Not even those small ass ones. I'm talking big
ones,
ass college ruled, and they're front to back
Yep.
every time. It's been that way for 5 years. I do both. I think it's extremely important. That's also how you find consistency. You write down what you did to replicate, and then when you cup, you go back to those profiles.
Right.
Your analog way, because obviously maybe you don't have a computer.
Right.
Or maybe you're at the collective and you don't have the profile that you did and you don't know where your settings were. No, you do the same thing. Because if you're roasting weekly, the coffee's not aging as fast as you think it is.
Right.
Especially if it's green in a stored area where that has somewhat of a respectable climate control. The coffee's going to remain consistent. Now, I mean, if you're talking like 6 months, if you're talking a year later, obviously the coffee is going to be aged. There will be bagging. There will be all these other flavor notes that are with that go on with aging as well. At the same time, writing down is everything. Don't ever follow the curve to a T. It's not the end all be all because the curve could look like shit, but the coffee tastes amazing.
Yeah, it tastes great. Tastes great.
Dude, I had at 7 C's. Eric didn't know what the fuck he was talking about when he was talking about, like, he had this Guatemala Huehue Tenango that was like, he's like, it tastes like blueberry muffins and this, that, and this. And like, so I roasted it. And this is like when the early days of 7 C's. And this is not to talk shit. This is literally just facts. And he was like, yeah, it tastes like a blueberry muffin. And so, like, I was roasting this coffee, and, like, the coffee was not tasting like no damn blueberry muffin. And so I finally got it to a point where it was, like, basically a white coffee, where it was damn near green, barely going first crack, and there was the blueberry muffin.
Yeah.
You know where the blueberry muffin came from? It was an under roasted coffee. It was pretty much green before first crack. Much like your story of going back to your roots, I know Guatemala Huehue Tenangos. I've worked with that shit for like 2.5 years. Relatively, you know, maybe it came from a different farm, but for the most part, the beans are the same for the sake of conversation.
Okay.
When I roasted this Guatemala Huehue Tenango, I don't remember the exact whatever they were calling it, but it was like this amazing coffee. Guatemala Gold, that's what it was called.
Okay.
the profile, nobody seemed to look up the profile because I had come on and they had already had this coffee. Nobody seemed to have like look up the roast profile, and it was like raspberry jam, some other flavors. Ain't no blueberry muffin on that. The hell?
See, that's
like that's what I'm saying. It's like you go on, you check it, and so like I started roasting it the way I knew. I went back to my roots, the way I was taught, and I brought that raspberry jam out of it. And then I showed him, I'm like, bro, this blueberry muffin, this shit that's not the facts. Like this is the facts. And once he tasted that coffee, it was a different story, bro. And it like opened up an entire world. So it was like, you can't always go like maybe the roast profile of like flavor notes of like an experienced roaster.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's what we should be aiming for because that's probably what it's going to taste like. And then when you get there and you know what you did to adjust it to get there, boom, replicate, write it down, take a picture, do whatever you need to do. But that's how you remain consistent because every time that's what's going to get you to the end goal.
1,000% I can't disagree with you, but the thing that I will kind of put on the table for dialogue is cupping notes. And I was having this conversation with Lada the other day where it's like, how do we determine cupping notes? It's like your palate is probably way more defined than mine, but what you might taste in a coffee and what I might taste in a coffee, it may not even be a case of palates. It just might be I'm tasting this and you're not, or vice versa. And in terms of we can go into a completely different direction with this conversation, but in terms of taking a product from origin and bringing it here and roasting it and saying you should taste this blueberry muffin and putting that on a bag, and then someone takes it home and it's like, man, I just must not be a great coffee taster if I don't taste this blueberry muffin. Or, man, that coffee tastes like shit because there's no blueberry muffin in there. And it's like, have we ever thought from a business perspective of what we're doing in terms of pushing a customer away because they can't taste a cupping note or they can't taste something that we're saying should be there? So you look at a company like Ceremony out in Baltimore, like they got away from even saying, oh, this coffee's light or this coffee's medium or it's a dark roast. And they're using this color system now where it's like, okay, we roasted it to this color or we roasted it to this color. And from a sensory standpoint, it's pretty interesting because you walk into their shop and you see all of these bags of whole bean coffee, and there's no mention of a light roast or a medium roast or a dark roast. It's just a lighter color for their label. And it's like, naturally, from a psychological standpoint, we gravitate toward that. So it's interesting to see where the coffee world is going to go to where
so like a dark roast would be black.
Exactly. A dark roast would be like a black label
floral
or a brown
African
label.
Would be like pink.
Pink, exactly. 1,000%. And it's like...
It's actually pretty G.
No, it's from a psychological standpoint, knowing what I like. Like, I like light, bright coffees. I went in there, I grabbed the bag corresponding with that, not even knowing it. And it wasn't until like a year later where I read on Sprudge that that's what they were doing. I was like, oh shit, that worked.
Bro, you are a new coffee person. You're just sticking to like the Sprudge and the Daily Coffee News. I will say I frequent Daily Coffee News, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, bro.
No, you do. You totally do.
Feel me? Like,
but from having a barometer of like knowing your left from your right, it's like you got to go somewhere because coffee, we don't want to unpack certain things on this podcast just yet, but coffee can be very close-minded in the sense of some people aren't willing to share. There are people.
I can't believe you said that. Yo, some people are probably flipping their fucking coffee cups over right now. What are you talking about? We're close-minded.
Hot take coming up. Hot take coming up. But no, not everybody's willing to share. Like, not everybody is a Kano where they're like, hey, you got to get a mentor. You got to get a mentor. Or, hey, let me come show you. I mean, like, dude, you were.
Who says you shouldn't get a mentor though, bro? Like, no, if you do any other thing besides coffee, skateboarding, that's what I know.
Yeah.
How are you going to get better? You hang out with people who are better than you.
Hang out with people that are better than you, exactly.
It's the same thing in coffee. It doesn't matter. You just, like, you've replaced a skateboard with a coffee bean.
Yeah. But there's so many people out there that just want to hug the knowledge that they have and they don't want to share it.
It's hella lame.
It's very lame.
Kick rocks, homies.
For sure. But it's like, how do you grow? How do you let the community that you're in grow? You say...
That's what's popping. You share the knowledge.
You share, exactly. You say that, oh, I love coffee, I love beer, I love skateboarding. I want this community to grow. Okay, well, show me how you did that. Oh, well, write me a check for $2,400 and I'll show you.
Stop it.
And it's just like, really? Like... I'm not asking you, what percentage of Guatemalan do you have in that and what percentage of Ethiopia do you have in that, but show me how you did it.
Bro, no, You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, people can walk through that door every single day, or the people who order Caffeine and Green online, or people who come to Steel Mill and get like espresso like in real time. You can bombard them with knowledge, and you can do these things and make specialty coffee so accessible. How many people are actually going to sit here and talk to you about what they really want to do and create a business plan to do these things?
Right.
The knowledge is free. It's the follow through that costs.
Exactly.
You feel me?
Exactly.
Like, but not every single person is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to start a coffee shop and do this and do that. And even if I gave you every single fucking piece of knowledge that I gave you, does not mean you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with who you are.
Yep.
You feel me?
1,000%. And I mean, you look at people, not to make another Gary Vaynerchuk reference, but it's like people always ask, like, God, this guy's a huckster. He's a huckster, but why does he give his knowledge away for free? It's because of exactly what you just said. He gives away the knowledge that's gotten him to where he's at right now because he knows half the people, if not more than half the people that are listening, aren't going to do shit with it.
So they don't.
And
they get motivated for like a couple days, and then they're just like, nah.
Well, the problem is they get motivated for a couple of days, and then when they lose motivation, what do? They go back and they listen to more rather than turn around and actually go and execute. There's not enough executors in the world.
Bro, like, to that point, like it was ceremony coffee in Baltimore.
Yep.
Dude, I feel like a rapper in a sense, and I don't mean this in like an arrogant way. I mean like they asked Lil Wayne, they're like, yo, who do you listen to besides yourself? He's like, I don't listen to nobody else's music.
Yeah.
And he's the dude who's pushing, I mean, like back in the day, he was pushing the fucking envelope of who rappers were.
Right.
Like, present day, DaBaby. They're like, yo, who else shit do you listen to? He's like, I listen to my homies, and that's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to nobody else's shit, but yet he's the dude who's leading the top charts. Yeah. I think about coffee the same way. I honestly, like, my homie came up to me, he's like, oh, well, Onyx did this. I was like, yo, I keep hearing about this Onyx. Like, what is Onyx? And they're a roaster out of Arkansas or whatever. And I was like, I didn't know who they were. And I looked them up. I was like, oh, these guys look fucking sick.
Yep.
I don't get spiteful or anything like that. I'm so focused on building Caffeine and Green. I'm so focused on building Still Mill that I don't focus on anybody else. And in a sense, it's almost like a relief. Because you're not focused on nobody else, you're focused on what's in front of you and what you can do to make your crew or your brand better. That's a winner's mentality, in my opinion.
100%. 100%.
I'm not trying to shit on anybody I don't know. Like, yo, if you tell me about a place that does these cool ass things, like, dude, I'm so down to see that because that's fucking amazing. You thought outside of the box.
Right.
Like, fuck yeah, G. I want to talk to you. How did you think about that? Why did you think about that? Like, yo, tell me about your thought process. But at the same time, like, I got, like, not blinders on, but, like, when I think about Caffeine and Green, it's like, yo, how are we going to push Caffeine and Green to, like, do the next tightest shit? Or how are we going to push Steel Mill to, like, really elevate the coffee game for not, like, anybody else but our own selves and the community that we're serving here?
Right.
You feel me?
That's how you have to think because that's what's
popping.
causing you to go forward rather than stay where you're currently at or worse, take several steps back. And
you got to level up, bro.
It's a winner's mentality. Exactly.
Yeah.
You are reflective of not just who you hang with, but who you're trying to aspire to either be like or not necessarily impress, because it's not about impressing anybody.
Nah.
But when someone like Joe Morocco says, Kano, that's good coffee, that's a pat on your back to the point of like, I must be doing something right. But how can you get to that point? By keeping your head down, being laser focused, and doing what's going to get you to where you want to go.
Well, you got to ask questions, bro.
You have to ask questions.
You have to ask questions. Like, I'm not a big believer in there's no stupid questions because there's definitely stupid questions. But I'm definitely a big believer in, like, yo, you want to know how to do that? You have to talk. You have to ask. Closed mouth don't get fed, my G. Take it how they want, but a closed mouth don't get fed.
It never will.
You feel me? Like, Jay-Z said that shit. Take it how they want, but a closed mouth don't. I think personally for where I was going with like the closed mouth don't get fed thing is that you have to learn the basics to me. That's what, like, I might not agree or I might not understand what you're doing, but once I see the end result, like what I saw from my mentor, Steve, dude, people loved his coffee.
Right.
I would stand there and I would see people just like, this is the best coffee. This is what it is. And then I would ask him. I'd be like, how do you do this? And he was just like, I don't know. And then I would talk to the head roaster who, worked under Steve. and he would have like all these meticulous things and just like very like an asshole about it. Sorry,
Right.
Jason, if you're ever listening to this, but he was a dick. He was a fucking huge dick, bro.
Yeah.
Like I straight up, dude. I'm sorry again, Jason. If you're ever listening to this, he probably won't though. But dude, like, I don't know. I think because of like how my mentality was, but this is also sick because Shay had a similar story. Jason was being a fucking dick to me one day. And I just straight up looked at him, bro. I was like, bro, if you ever talk to me like that again, we're going to have some fucking problems. And like in the middle of the cafe, like
Right.
two grown ass men. I wasn't even, I was barely in, like just broke 30.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like 34 right now. So this is like a while ago, like 4 years ago. And he was like 37. So this dude's like well into his 40s now. And he like was saying some shit. He's like, why aren't you getting this? Why aren't you getting this? It's like, bro, look, I don't understand. But if you keep fucking talking to me like that, we're going to have some fucking problems. You want to go outside? We can handle this shit, bro. But don't talk to me like that. It's a grown-ass man. Like, I'm talking to another grown-ass man in the middle of a coffee shop. And he's just looking at me. And then we're in the middle of a rush and all this shit. But we're in the back in the roastery. So it's like, whatever. And he's like, do you want to go outside and talk about this? I was like, yeah, let's fucking go, bro. And then he smoked cigarettes. So he was just railing cigarettes while he was talking to me. And I was just standing there looking at him full, just like, don't fucking talk to me. I don't give a fuck what you're roasting on, bro. Like, oh, you're a coffee roaster? Cool, bro.
It's bigger than that right now.
Like, it's bigger than that. You're going to talk to me with some disrespect?
It's about respect.
Like, yo, you want to talk to me? Yes, I'm not getting this. I will acknowledge that. I'm being a fucking dummy. Maybe there's something in my brain that doesn't understand it. But the way you're talking to me, bro, like, nobody talks to me like this. So, like, we're going to have some fucking problems if you need to talk to me like this. From that point on, bro, he never had a problem with me after that.
Sometimes it takes that breakthrough moment of like, oh crap, someone not calling you out on your bullshit, but someone calling you out on your bullshit.
Like, bro, you don't have to be a dick about it. That's why, like, when we were talking, like, before, like last week when I seen you, I'm like, I don't do that shit, bro. Cool. We're in coffee. Tight. I can geek out with you on coffee super hard.
Right.
We can nerd out. And, like, yeah, because I love nerding out. I do. But I'm also not a coffee person that's, like, PC. I'm also not a coffee person that, like, fits, like, the narrative for what a coffee person is. You know what I mean? I like to shoot guns. I like to shoot a bow and arrow.
Yep.
I do like hunting. I do like doing these things. But, like, I also support social causes and, like, support, like, things that matter.
And
You feel
that,
me?
and I 1000% feel you. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why coffee calls to me so much, because even though on the surface, looking at it, coffee looks so close-minded. When you walk into a cafe and you ask for something and they look at you like, oh, what, you don't know? It's like, well, it's
No,
not that
I
I
don't
don't know, or maybe I don't know, but don't fucking treat me like that. Like, treat me like a human that you're out there, you know, this is...
Well, like, with somebody who doesn't know, like, with
Yeah.
anything you're doing,
Yeah.
whether it's skateboarding or
Yeah.
anything like that, it's like, I think that's another reason, too. With skateboarding, it's like, you, again, tying it back into you have to skate with people who are better than you to get better.
To get better, exactly.
You
exactly.
always got to look out for the little homies. So it's like, yo, you got the little homie on here who can barely do an ollie, or he can ollie and he can roll off a curb. But he can't kick it with the actual homies.
Right.
But, like, he sees you chilling there, like, you're smoking a J, you're drinking a beer, but you're jumping on the 12 stair. But you're like, hey, homie, like, oh, I seen you roll off the curb. That shit was dope.
Yeah, no,
you know, like, you feel me? Like,
yeah.
you have to support the people, like, the way that people, you have to support people the way you wanted to be supported.
Exactly. And that, you know, tying everything together, it's like when I walk into a coffee shop, and I've had the privilege of living in several different places throughout the U.S., and it's like, what is the coffee shop that I want to walk into? What is the experience that I want to get? Maybe it's not out there, so let me create it myself. And to what you're mentioning, it's like you're only as strong as your weakest link. And some of the best roasters out there, they're not going to live forever. Some of the best cafe owners out there, they're not going to live forever. So you got to pass that knowledge on. And it's like, if you don't ask the questions to get that knowledge, they're not going to openly share it with you. So you have to ask questions, and you have to be willing to learn. And that's the biggest thing. You don't have to just be willing to learn, but you have to actually be willing to try what you're learning. Because some people, they'll get taught all of the secrets, but then they'll just in one ear and out the other. And it's like, I was listening to the episode with your boy Andrew, and it's like, yeah, I've been doing things certain ways, but if I get taught a better way to do it, I can adapt. I can do it a different way as a chef. And that's how you just have to be in life. And, you know, you mentioned Jay-Z a few moments ago. You look at music. It's like, hey, who's the best rapper alive? Who's your top 10? You ask 10 different people that, you're probably going to get 90 different rappers.
You're going to get like 10 different answers for sure.
Exactly. And it's like, same thing with coffee. What tastes good to you may not taste good to me. But how did we arrive there?
But can you also appreciate?
You have to appreciate that. You have to appreciate that. I'll throw you a real curveball. Going back to the basketball thing, who's the greatest basketball player to ever play the game?
Michael Jordan.
Exactly, Michael Jordan. Guess who is number one on my shit list? Michael Jordan. Can't stand the dude. I hate Michael
because
Jordan.
you're a Laker fan.
I'm a Laker fan, and I didn't like Michael Jordan's personality. I probably still don't like Michael Jordan's personality.
Did you watch The Last Dance?
I did watch The Last Dance. And I have never been down with MJ. Never, ever, ever will be down with MJ. Whoa. But I acknowledge the fact that he's the greatest player to ever play the game of basketball. And that's where you have to have an appreciation for the game. You have to have an appreciation for the craft. Rap, so subjective. And I was thinking about this.
Nipsey. Nas. It's subjective, but it's like, that's it.
It's so subjective to the point where, like, I was actually jotting stuff down as I was writing something else. And I'm like, best rappers of all time. Like, what's my top 10? And I wrote down my top 10. But then I'm like, do I really want to put that person there? And then I was like, well, wait a second. Hold on. Let me see if I can, like, actually replicate my best rappers of all time by breaking it down to the best rappers of LA, the best rappers of the Bay, the best rappers of the South, and are they still in that same order? And for the most part, they were, but I was like actually like thrown by two things where it's like I have J. Cole, like this is going to be another hot take. I have J. Cole and Eminem in my top 10 of all time. But I don't have Eminem on my top East Coast rappers. Even though, you know, some people
he's not an East Coast
well,
rapper,
some people
though.
would argue that Detroit, you know, more Midwest, but yeah, it's
definitely Midwest.
That's a geography thing. But it's like we don't talk about Midwest rappers.
It's a Midwest swang. Nelly.
I mean, Nelly is like
Come on now.
You start and stop at Nelly. That's like you start and
No.
stop at Nelly.
No. I'm arguing with this.
Let's bring it.
Chingy. Right There.
So that was like a one-hit wonder.
No, because he did Right There. He did Holiday Inn. That's two.
Okay,
That's
all right.
two.
He's 2/3 toward maybe like a mixtape.
He had like one more big hit. Okay. So there's Chingy. There's Nelly. There's the Saint Lunatics, which was through Nelly.
Yeah, you know that's kind of subjective right there.
And then you got the South, which even though they're Missouri, they're St. Louis, so that's Missouri.
Yeah, we're not going to throw St. Louis in the South because that's going to bring like a barbecue argument.
Okay, so
out.
that's a Midwest.
Yeah.
But then you got Texas.
Yeah, no, and that's a part of the South.
That's the
you
South.
You definitely have the South.
But then Midwest would also be. But see, Nelly stands out in the Midwest because if you're throwing the Midwest, you're throwing obviously Minnesota in there. Then you have Sage, Elijah, Atmosphere. You have like.
I think Atmosphere is an interesting one because I think more than anywhere, I think the state of New Mexico claims Atmosphere more than anybody, which is
state
weird.
of New Mexico.
It's like I think Atmosphere has performed more in Albuquerque than they've performed anywhere, and they're not even from New Mexico. It's weird.
Yeah, well, there's that, and then there's also you would throw all of Chi-Town in there. That's like Chief Keef. You got King Von.
Kanye.
Yeah. You got Common. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's endless.
But that's the interesting thing about rap. It's just like we gravitate to.
Wait. Kentucky's over there too.
Ooh,
Midwest. That's like Kentucky. Then you could then you could go like Young Dolph, Key Glock.
Yeah, I love Key Glock.
Key Glock is the man.
But see, Kentucky might be one of those like
Memphis.
tweeners.
Yo, Juicy J.
Well, now we're in the South. We're back in the South.
Yeah. Well, see, okay, what makes Memphis and them the South, but they're technically in the middle. That would be Midwest because they're directly under Illinois.
That's that tweener thing where it's like, are we claiming you or are they claiming you?
See, they're claiming like they're going up and then over to the side, so you can't just skip shit.
But that's no. And where you're going with this is exactly where I brought it up because it's so subjective. It's so subjective. But when we think about rap, traditionally it was always a West Coast versus East Coast. But then you had. The South come onto the scene, and the South made a name for themselves.
Atlanta,
Exactly, Outkast, Andre 3000, Big Boy, shout out. But as I was compiling my list, I'm like, I don't put J. Cole in the South, but he's from North Carolina.
Is he really?
He's from Fayetteville, North
He
Carolina.
is, at Dreamville. That's
exactly.
where Dreamville's at. Okay.
And it's like, I don't put him there. And then Eminem, he's from Detroit. But I don't really like look at Midwest rap as being a thing. And that might just be my own shortcoming. Totally. Like, I might sound like the biggest fool to ever be on the... Yeah. I can't remember that song. What? Crap.
Well, they had Po Folks and they,
like, yeah. That was a big vibe for a minute.
Po Folks was their second hit, but it was oh no, hell nah, boy, y'all have up and done it.
Yep.
That shit was banger.
But, so let's tie these things together real quick though. Who would you say your top 5 rappers of all time are?
Easy. Nipsey, Nas, Biggie, Pac, and number 5 might be tough.
Did we do that in order? Was your first your number 1?
So it was actually in order. The number 1 used to be Nas, but Nipsey is just, dude. I keep finding mixtapes of Nipsey, and just other things of Nipsey, and granted, not all of them are amazing. You could definitely tell when he was like honing his craft, and he was becoming more raw. But Nipsey for sure is definitely number 1 because he is the epitome of what it is to turn your, from what Biggie said, ashy to classy.
Mm-hmm.
Nipsey was more ashy to classy than even Biggie was, because Biggie was a storyteller. Biggie didn't live that life that he really did.
He associated himself with people.
He associated himself, but he did sell drugs. And it's like, dude, bro, I sold drugs too, so it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. But it wasn't. I didn't like if I sold drugs on the stance of like I sold weed when weed was still illegal. Am I like a cartel member? Fuck no. But I was a fucking hustler. I wanted to smoke weed for free, and I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
Done. But that's how I would say I was like a Biggie of drug dealing. Yeah, Biggie didn't really live that. Nipsey lived that shit.
Yeah, no, Nipsey lived that. I mean, to the credit of Biggie, like Juicy was his life, He's selling on the corners to put food on his daughter's table. Yeah. And he says it in his lyrics, why he was doing what he was doing. Whereas Nipsey was living that life.
That gang banging life. And I've met people, I've had Jay Outlaw on the podcast. Mm-hmm. He grew up with Nipsey. He was in the Hustle in the House music video, and he described to me on the episode that he was on, talking to Nipsey, growing up with Nipsey, and he was a big homie from the hood. And it was just like, holy shit, bro! Nipsey to me is the epitome of what hip hop should be. He's the epitome of what an entrepreneur should be. Period.
And that's why I fuck with Nipsey so hard. And it's people look at me like, wait, you listen to that? I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I listen to that. I listen to all kinds of music, but as a person that appreciates music, if you just looked at my Spotify activity over the last, 3-4 years, it would look like I listen to nothing but Nipsey Hussle. But do I think he's the best artist? I don't, but...
I got number 5, Coda the Friend. I don't even know if you know who he is, bro.
I'm staring off into the rafters right now because I don't.
Yeah, it's Nipsey, Nas, Biggie, Pac, Coda the Friend.
Okay, I'm gonna have to listen to that one on the way back.
Either Coda the Friend, and then a close number 6 would be Rex Life Raj.
Okay.
He's a Bay rapper.
Okay. Oof. Quick segue. And I'm looking down here real quick because I kind of had this one mapped out. But who's your top 5 Bay Area rappers?
Oh, bro, too short. Wait. Whoa. Okay, top 5 Bay rappers. Go. Mac Dre, number 1. Ooh. Always, forever. Okay, I've got Mac Dre, this is what it is. Just because he is who he is. It's Mac Dre. I was still alive when Mac Dre was alive, and so I grew up in the Bay with Mac Dre being a very big part of that.
Right, super influential.
I would go Andre Nicotina, number 2.
Okay.
A Tale of Andre and Andre, the mix between Mac Dre and Andre Nicotina. The way I smoke weed is like death of a genius. Reappear, roll up, rise like a phoenix. That shit is the fucking put the phone on your butt. It's a booty call. And I'm coming to bust nuts on all y'all. And then I'm out. Half a blunt hanging out my mouth, speeding like a demon on 101 South. It
was a vibe for anybody who knew the Bay Area.
Yo, that shit. Okay, so Mac Dre, Andre 3000. Andre Nicotina.
Okay.
Too Short, number 3. E40, of course. E40 Belafonte, number 4. And that's just because there's so many other Bay legends before him. But like E40 Belafonte, he kills it. And then number 5. Number 5 of the Bay rappers.
Pressure's on, Kano. Pressure's on.
Honestly, I kind of like Damian Lillard right now. I'm going to be honest.
Ooh, now that is a hot take. Wait, hold on. That's a hot take because I'm actually wearing Dames right now.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
I'm actually wearing
Damian
Dames
Lillard
right
is
now.
from the town, bro.
Yeah,
like,
no, he 100%. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
People don't realize he's not just one of these basketball players that just decided to go get some equipment and put it on his. He can actually spit
he can
fire.
rap.
Yeah.
He's like, we from the land of the Raiders. And then what did he say? He says, we from the land of the Raiders. Blah, 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 blah. But it's like, we never. Fuck. What does he say? I was literally just listening on the way up here. It was something about like, we stay sucker proof. And he's like, we don't pay attention to the haters. That's what suckers do, and we stay sucker proof. Oh,
Okay.
We be stunting on you, but like he's like, we from the land of the Raiders. Like, yo, bro, like, he has this song like. He's like, I'm gonna run it up. He's like, the only squares that I'm counting on my checks. Like, yo, I fucking. Oh. Scratch Damian Lillard. I love Dame. If we're going to go number 5 Bay rappers, we're going to go Rex Life Raj.
Okay.
Rex Life Raj, dude, he has a quote that I've literally been saying since I heard it, and it was only a couple weeks ago. He's like, if you don't fuck with me, he's like, no, he says, what does he say? He says, oh my God, I say it all the time. But he's like, basically, he
come
says,
to you at 2 in the morning.
He basically says, like, if you don't fuck with me, then it's you. I guess. Oh, I'm just trying to be honest. If you don't fuck with me, then it's you. I'm just trying to be honest. It's like that's how I feel.
No,
like
100%.
If you don't fuck with me, then it's you, bro. Because like
you know your worth.
I know who I am. I know what I stand for. Right. And if you really have a problem with me, then it's you.
Exactly. It's so lyrical. The meaning behind that is so lyrical, but it's so meaningful because at the root of the day, like I was telling you earlier, you can't look yourself in the mirror and lie to yourself. You know who you are as a person. If you're a shit person, you know you're a shit person.
100.
If you're a great person, you know you're a great person. So if you feel that I am a great person and you don't fuck with me, then it's you, not me. But exactly what you just struggled with was the point that I was making. And I didn't plan it to happen like that, but that's why rap is so subjective, why music is so subjective. Because earlier, when I asked you to name your top 5 rappers of all time, you put Rex Life in there. But then you struggle to include him on your top 5 Bay Area, and that's what's interesting about Coffee. No, I get it, and like that's the same thing. I was doing this exercise with myself where it's like, okay, who are my 10 favorite rappers of all time? Well, who are my favorite Bay Area rappers?
Well, I want to know. Like, well, can we before you get on to the? Let me hear your 10. I want to hear your 10.
Okay, so we'll go 10 down. 10
Number
down.
1. Is it in any particular order, or is it?
It's all in order. So you want to go 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
Oh, 10 to 1.
All right, 10 to 1. J. Cole is number 10.
Okay.
Number 9, E40.
Ooh.
Number 8, Nas. Number 7.
Number 8?
Number
8? Okay. Go ahead.
So there's a reason why Nas is higher than the rest.
Just go.
Mr. Hot Take, as of lately, number 7 comes in at Eminem.
Okay.
Number 6 is K-Dot, Kendrick Lamar. Number 5, and remember, and I want to preface this, even though I should have done it before saying number 10, but this is best rappers of all time, in my opinion.
Yes.
By no means are they my favorite rappers, which is a whole different topic. But number 5, Nipsey Hussle.
Okay.
Number 4, Lil Wayne. Number 3, The Notorious B.I.G. Number 2, Tupac. And I was actually surprised that you didn't mention him. Number 1, Jay-Z.
I don't think Jay-Z's that good of a rapper.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you.
I love that opinion.
I do, dude. See, I say that with a almost. I fuck with Jay-Z tough.
Mm-hmm.
I do. The Takeover, love that song.
Yeah.
I listen to it on a daily. There's a couple other songs that are on my regular playlist that Jay-Z is definitely a part of my daily intake of hip hop.
Right.
But Jay-Z's not a good rapper.
So that's the cool thing about this conversation, because when I look at the best rappers of all time, I look at their lyrical ability, I look at their cadence, I look at what the songs make you think of, what the music makes you think of, what the vibe results in after listening to that song. And it's like all of these 10, they set a vibe, they set a mood. And it's like, when I'm in this mood, I put on this person. When I'm in this mood, I put on this person. But is that my favorite artist of all time? Maybe not, because I mean, quite frankly, Chance the Rapper probably would make my list of my favorite 5 artists.
Dude, I love Chance.
I fucking love Chance. I like, to this day, that's probably still the best concert that I've ever gone to. Chance the Rapper. And,
What about Kanye though?
See, oh man,
Dude, Kanye, old Kanye.
There we
Old
go.
Kanye,
There we
like
go.
college dropout
There we go.
Kanye.
There we go.
Yo.
There we go. I used to push a mayonnaise color. You know, like that was the Kanye that I fucked with. But this new Kanye, well, I mean, maybe post-divorce Kanye might come back.
Post-divorce Kanye, I can't. Like, no shade, Kanye, if you're ever listening. But like, I cannot wait till his album comes out because his wife divorced him. Yo, bro, I know how that happens.
I'm waiting for 2 things. I'm waiting for the first album post-divorce from Kanye, and I'm waiting to see which NBA player is marrying Kim Kardashian next.
Bro, she's whack.
That's a whole different story.
Whack,
But
but like, no, but Kanye, like 808 and Heartbreaks.
yes.
808 and Heartbreaks. Like, bro, that was after his mom passed away.
Yep.
R.I.P. But that album was fire.
Yeah.
And like, it was crazy
Yeah, no,
because it was different.
He's
Kanye.
driven. He's driven by events in his life. When he's not driven, you get some of the whack Kanye. So, you know,
Or just like a doped up Kanye. Like, you don't need to put that full on goddamn drugs. Let him fucking
let
be
him
as
be who
crazy
he-
as he
yeah,
wants.
exactly. Let him
Dude,
be
he
who he is.
produces the most amazing shit. Like, College Dropout from start to finish. Bro, I have a Kanye West lyric tatted on me. It says, God show me the way. It's from Jesus Walks.
Mhm.
I'm not even super religious, but I believe in God.
right.
But like, when he said that, like, it was like, the Jesus walk. God show me the way. Like,
Dude,
like,
I
bro,
used to have that on repeat.
like,
On repeat.
I love that
Yep.
song. Still to this day, I fuck with that song. Or like, I can't. Like when the song that comes after that with Talib Kweli, he's like, I can't believe this guy using my name to get with these girls. Like, get him on, use my chain. Da, 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 da. Like that song, any song with Comment, or even the song at the end when Jay-Z's on it,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Fuck you, Kanye, for making me do this."
Yeah.
And he's just like, yo, I played this song for Jay-Z, and he's just talking.
Yep,
He's
he's
just
talking
like,
about
it's
his-
called
his-
Whoa,
yeah,
this,
exactly.
that, and this.
Yeah.
It's like, or Family Business.
Yeah.
We ain't letting everybody in our family
No,
business.
but that one with Jay, I love that because it's just like you put yourself there where it's like from the beginning to the end, you're living his struggle, you're living his life,
Yep.
his origin story. And
It's a
like,
story.
It's a story. He's one of the best like no disrespect to Kanye. He's one of the best storytellers to ever get behind a microphone, and I love him for that. It's kind of like MJ. I recognize the talent. I acknowledge the talent. He's one of the greatest of all time. But I just, the episodes just cause me not to fuck with them sometimes. But
I understand.
And I was just like, it's like that bullshit tolerance. Like, come on, Kanye, stop. Come on, stop tweeting. You know, it's like, I mean, well, let's not get into politics. But I'm going to the Bay, though, real quick. My 5 versus your 5. So I actually put E40 number 1.
Number one.
E40 is number 1 for me. But
Wow.
it's growing up in L.A., I think, because I think growing up in L.A., we fucked with 2 Bay Area rappers harder than we fucked with any other Bay Area rappers, and it was E40 and Too Short.
Of course.
And you know, they resonated more, they knocked more, they slapped more in LA than they did in the Bay, but they're still Bay Area legends. But for me, it's E40 number 1, Mac Dre number 2, Too Short number 3. I'm surprised you didn't mention this one, and this one's a controversial one, but I actually put Mr. Fab number 4, and well, yeah, that was interesting, relating it to roasting, because how people rap and how people roast, you can look at it the same way. Because Mr. Fab, if people really know Mr. Fab's raps, he's a great freestyler, sure. He's a great freestyler.
Yeah.
But if you ever look at him in the studio, he punches in. And are you familiar with punching in?
I mean, yes, I am.
So
but
it's like you have a 3-minute song that you just took an hour to record. But when you listen to it after the fact, it flows, the cadence is there, but
Yeah.
it makes you think. And when I just listen to a Mr. Fab song, like, from start to finish, I'm like, yeah, he just put me wherever he's rapping about, whatever he's talking about, he put me in that mood, he put me in that vibe, he put me in that moment. So that's why, you know, I fuck with him hard. But then number 5, Rappin' Forte.
Rapper
So,
Forte.
that's-
Yeah, the
that's
Players
my-
Club.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that's-
love Rapper Forte.
That's my 5 from the Bay. But
Mr. FAB on that point, like, when I played Mr. FAB at like very influential moments in my life. Like, I mean, I don't think you can be from the Bay Area and not play Sideshow or like the Sideshow remix.
Okay.
Like, driving hella fast like Mario and Treddy. Like, what do you say? 100 down the block on the other side. The only time we slow down is when we ghost ride. Then I hop out the car, I walk and steer. Then I only see his face if I'm sipping bitter beer. Like, of course I know Mr. FAB.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram.
A good follow on IG if you're
He's
not
definitely
following.
a good follow for sure. I will say though, and this is no hate, if he ever listens to this, but like,
Which I hope he does.
I hope he does, because I fuck with Mr. Fab and like New Oakland, like
Yeah. Dope era.
yeah, we got all the bosses for the Bay, man. You know, like he is the Bay.
Yeah.
You cannot be from the Bay and not pay homage to Mr. FAB.
Right.
I'm a Dave Destry, and like, yo, I fuck with that full hard. Like, he also did the Yellow Bus, like. But if I'm gonna listen to an entire album, like for me, he never did it.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't listen to a whole album. I could listen to an entire Mac Dre album, like Genie the Lamb. Like, you got the beginning of the album, then you got Not My Job, like in the middle of the album. It's like, that bitch asked me to go grocery shop. I looked at her and said, no sirree, Bob. That's not my job. I'm a rapper. I'm a pimp/rapper. I thought you knew that. Like, like they're that, or you got E40. E40 for sure. You can listen to an entire album. Like, whoop.
1000%.
Ooh. Like,
yeah,
some
and
shit.
then you walk out of the house wanting to replicate what you just heard.
Exactly. Or
Introduce
Too
that.
Short.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Too Short, but see, Too Short transcended the Bay. Like, super hard. He was in Atlanta. He was with Lil Jon. He's a little scrappy. He was like with all those dudes that like on that like punched him like woke up with his pockets turned inside out, punched him in his chin, motherfucker passed out, woke up with his pockets turned inside. And you keep talking like a bitch, like oh my god, like you just.
I think Too Short's underground rap more than anything transcends rap coast to coast. Like, you can be in freaking Memphis, Tennessee, or Lexington, Kentucky, and at a house party, and they're playing underground Too Short, not mainstream Too Short, but underground Too Short. And you can't
the
say
shit
that.
people don't listen to.
Exactly. You can't say that about most rappers of that notoriety. But Too Short, he transcended the whole game, in my opinion.
But see, let's talk about this though. Let's talk about New York rappers.
Now
top 5 New York rappers.
I think that's the most controversial thing ever, because what if I just said the top 5 New York rappers? Actually, no, let's not even go there.
No, fuck that. Let's go there. I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because, to your point, I've been in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I've been in San Diego, and I've been in other places where, like, you get in a car and be like, yo, man, can we like listen to some music? And be like, yo, what do you want to listen to? Like, yo, let's listen to some rap. And this guy's like, oh, like, you'll get in those conversations like, oh, what you know about rap? Be like, oh, what you know about rap? And be like an older gentleman sometimes driving an Uber or something like that. You're like, oh, where are you from, G? And then be like, yo, I'm from New York. Be like, oh, you're an older guy? All right. Throw on some Big L. Oh, what you know about Big L?
Yeah.
Or like, what you know about this? Or like, Dipset, or like whatever you're talking New York. Or if like I was in Nashville and they were like, oh, this guy's like, I was like, yo, bro. I was like, let me get some Nashville rap. And it's like, he's like, what you know about rap? I was like, yo, we're in Tennessee, bro. What, like, you want Young Dolph? You want fucking Key Glock? You want like 8-Ball MJG? Like Juicy J? Fucking 3-6 Mafia? He's like, oh, you know hip hop.
You know what you're talking about.
It's like, bro, I know where I'm at, G. Let's go. Let's listen to some local rap. I'm down. And they turn you on to some new rappers.
Okay.
New York's the best shit for that.
So let's step aside real quick. I just want to ask one question. Who is the number one, the best rapper out of Wu-Tang Clan?
My initial thought is Jizza.
Okay.
But then I would say Ghostface Killer.
All right. I was, you had me for a second. I was like, oh, wait. There you go. So I'd say it's Ghostface for sure.
I think Ghostface with Supreme Clientele. Like, bro, that's like one of the best albums of any of the Wu-Tang members, period.
Okay.
Period. Initial flow, swagger, the way that motherfucker. Like, I've met Ghostface Killer in real life.
Where at?
At Agenda in Long Beach.
Okay.
He's walking down, and bro, that fool is huge. He's like 6'5".
Oh shit.
Big motherfucker. And as soon as I seen him, I was just like talking to my homie, and my homie said, I was like, bro, that's Ghostface Killer.
Ghostface, yeah.
And he was like, who's that? I was like, from the Wu-Tang Clan. From the Wu-Tang. Do you know who Wu-Tang is? He's whatever. I was like, I need to go ask him for a photo. And I don't fan out.
Yeah.
But as soon as I seen him, dude, everybody was looking and nobody was saying anything. And I just walked right up to him. I was like,
it's intimidating, huh?
bro, I walked right up to that fool, and like I was hella short. Obviously, I'm like 5'9".
Right.
I walked up to his phone. I'm like, hey man, big fan, huge fan. I know this might cause like a thing, but I was like, I'd really like to ask for a photo. And that's how I
mean,
like,
you hit him with that John B voice, so
but no, because I didn't want to like make a scene, so I like
Yeah.
walked right up to him and like got close, and it was like, this is pre-COVID. And I was just like, hey bro, and he's like, real quick. And then sure enough, I just handed my phone to my homie, and I was like, take a photo of it.
right.
Boom. And I took a photo, like 2 photos of him. I was like, thanks, bro. And he just walked away. And as soon as he walked away,
That's when that fanboy ignited
dude,
in you, right?
no, but that's when like he got swarmed by a couple other
okay,
people. But then like I sat down, and I was just like, oh shit, I just met Ghostface Killer. Like, oh,
It's crazy how the psychology of that works. Like celebrities, people with like super, super high notoriety can walk around in public. No one really knows who they are. But then when one person takes a picture with them, it's like, oh shit, and then everybody swarms them. It's funny. Like I see that all the time.
bro, it was real. But like, I love rap.
Yeah, no,
Like,
no. I
you know,
1,000%
you feel me?
understand that
Like,
you do. Yeah. No,
The
like,
Champ. Did you ever listen to The Champ? Like that song?
No.
Oh, it's a Ghostface Killer song. You
Okay.
should definitely listen to it. It's called The Champ.
Okay.
And it just like, it starts off with like that ding, 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 ding. It's like,
Oh, no. I think I know which one you're talking about. And see, that's the thing, like, dude, never take me to trivia night because we would lose. But I know things by sight. I know things by hearing them. But when it comes to naming something,
Yeah.
like, I'm the worst at it. So, like, when you're like, hey, do you know that? I'm like, no, I don't. But then I get in the car and it's that same thing that you asked me about. It's like, oh, yeah, I know this song. I can sing the lyrics to it. But when you said the ding, ding part, it's like, oh, wait, no, I think I do. But no, that's why I asked you that, because the best member of Wu-Tang is always an interesting segue into the best rappers of New York, because it's surprising, like, how people will rattle off their best rappers in New York but never even mention anybody from Wu-Tang, because we look at groups and we don't look at them on an individual basis. But I think Wu-Tang, NWA.
but see, that's groups though.
No,
see,
no,
like
no.
you're gonna say rap groups, and then it's like then that opens up that segue.
No, you're right, but hear me out on that. I think Wu-Tang, NWA, maybe UGK.
What about
some of
ASAP Mob?
Say again?
ASAP Mob.
ASAP Mob for sure, and I'm glad you said that, not knowing where I'm going, but I'm glad you said that. There's only a few groups who, if you just like take the group, but then you take the members and they can stand on their own. Wu-Tang is one of those.
Yep.
They can stand on their own, or they can stand together as a group. But I mean, I think the Ghetto Boys is one of, or
Yep.
you know,
Mind Playing Tricks. Damn, it feels good to be a
One-
gangster. G Code.
for sure. But you like start breaking some groups down. It's like, yeah, you know, I didn't fuck with them. Like, I mean,
Dude, Willie D and Bushwick Bill from Ghetto Boys.
well,
like,
check
yo,
it
what's
out.
pop?
No, no, no.
Scarface.
No,
all
no,
three
no,
of them
no,
had
no,
off
no,
that fire albums.
No, I wasn't going with the Ghetto Boys. I was going to a different thought, because here's a super controversial one. But how do you feel about Andre 3000?
I love him.
How do you feel about Big Boy?
Love him.
How do you feel about Outkast?
Love him.
Okay, a lot of people, to my surprise, fucking love Outkast. They love Andre 3000, but they don't fuck with Big Boy.
Why?
And it's like, exactly why?
Speaker box.
And it's like, dude, both of those dudes could have been, or are, not could have been, they are stars in their own right.
They're
but-
movie stars, both of them.
Very, very much so. But when they came together, they were so much better. Like,
Bro.
so much better. But they could stand on their own. There could have never have been an Outkast, and they each still would be just as famous as they are right now.
Bro, they are the reason the South blew up. This is pre-Gucci. This is pre-Jeezy. This is pre-anybody who's coming out the South, period.
Yeah.
Outkast with, God damn it, what was the album? What was their first album? Not Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. Was that it? Was that the first album?
Here we go with those names again. Like, I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Their first album, I think, was Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. And it's all one word. And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, yeah. But, like, that's what they want. Like, during that whole West Coast, East Coast, West Coast beef
Right.
between, like, Suge Knight saying, like, anybody want to come to fucking Death Row where producers ain't all up in the video.
Yeah.
So, like, and they're like, hey, the East Coast ain't got no love for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. Like, that whole shit. They fucking won Album of the Year.
They
and
crept
they were
in
like,
and-
yo, they ain't got, the South ain't got, or like the rap game ain't got no love for Outkast. We're like, nah, South's on top. We're here. Da, 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 da. Like the South, and that was Andre 3000 in his heyday, rocking an Atlanta Braves jersey at the Source Hip Hop Awards.
that was an era.
Fucking standing up, like what's popping.
Yep.
And then they had that fire album, like Get Up, Get Out, and Get Some. You know,
Mhm.
like fire tracks, like period. And then ain't nobody giving a fuck about them, but they were the ones who paved the fucking way.
They
And then
100%. And, you know, that's why it pains me to hear dudes like, who was it? It just happened recently. It was like, oh, yeah, I don't fuck with Andre 3000.
what? Who said that?
Not Future.
Future can suck.
No,
a
no,
dick.
it's not. It's
Future
not Future.
sucks.
Was it Young Thug? It'll come to me
Young
at 2 in the morning. As
Young
well,
Thug
but-
wouldn't have said that. He's from Atlanta.
No, actually, it was Young Thug. And
Was it Young
That's
Thug?
exactly. I'm glad you said
No,
that
he
because
didn't say that.
that's what it was. It was another Atlanta rapper hating on Andre 3000. It's like, yeah, I don't fuck with. Like, it's just like, wait, what? Like,
No.
you exist because of him, and.
No. I don't want to believe it. I feel like that's one of those things, just like a tagline.
I don't think it was in that same regard. I don't think it was clickbait. I actually, like, when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? And I clicked on it. I read the article, and it was this long to do about, like, yeah, you know, he was like saying, oh, yeah, you know, I don't really fuck with him. But then they went back in time and, like, Andre 3000, you know, who do you think's the next wave of Atlanta rappers? And
He said
named
Young Thug.
And it's like, come on, dude. Like, you gotta respect the past before you can acknowledge the present, because the past gave way to the present.
Well, have you ever watched any of those like hip hop documentaries on like Netflix and stuff?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
bro, I mean, like, if we were gonna like really talk about paying homage to like, you know, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, we're talking Africa Bambaataa.
Right.
We're talking all that early hip hop, like even NWA. Some of that shit was trash. It was. The music fucking sucks. Like, Dr. Dre even talks about not smoking weed, and he puts out a fucking album called The Chronic. Like, but the music that they did for the time
Right.
was what paved the way to today.
It enabled the future. 100%.
So you have to pay homage. If you don't pay homage, you're doomed to repeat past experiences of people that never grew.
Right.
I mean, like, don't push me because I'm close to the
yep.
edge. Like, they were, for that time, what he was saying was fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
It still stands true to this day. But is that song, like, does it stand the test of time? Yes. Will everybody appreciate it?
No, not at all.
So it's circumstantial.
Yeah, it's circumstantial, it's subjective, but that is why bringing up hip hop or rap, depending on how you want to classify it, relates to this story or relates to this topic and why we're all here at the end of the day. Because just as subjective as that is, so is coffee. And it's like, what could taste good to you may not taste good to me, but we can agree that we both love it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. And that's what I think is beautiful about storytelling. That's what I think is beautiful about the art that it brings, the people that it allows you to share certain moments with, because I can just look at you and tell how much you love hip hop. It's like the other day when you were at the cafe, you're like, hey, have you heard that new G-Eazy song? I was like, no, I haven't heard it. A few days later, I was listening to it. I was like, oh, yeah,
it's fire, yeah. It's fire, yeah.
It's good. It's like, dude, can't knock it. But it's the same thing with coffee, man. Like, what's good to you may not be good to me, but I can appreciate it.
Well, dude, you'll meet Leov here when we're going to do the espresso. We'll run that back, the espresso thing. But, like, the greatest thing about Leov, period, is that she, from day one, like, I've taught her, like, a lot about tasting coffee.
Right.
My boy Josh taught her everything he knew about being a barista, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But she, since the day I started, like, kind of looking to her as my person to not reinforce, but be my feedback person. Like, I don't know how to put it into words, but like
A sounding board.
Not even a sounding board, like a person like I confide in to be like, hey, what do you think about these coffees?
Okay.
She has challenged me, and she will like always choose like the more complex coffees to really like grow that palate, or even like challenge the palate. Be like, hey, what does this taste like to you? Or like, hey, this might not be the regular coffee that you're going to go for.
Right.
And I want to choose a different path, and I want to enjoy the coffee for its complexities, as opposed to like maybe just a pleasant or a pleasant everyday mouthfeel. Let's choose this complex coffee that has more of like a, like, damn, I didn't know that could actually taste that good kind of thing. Yep. You know what I mean? So I would definitely agree. I mean, like, I think it's all subjective, it's all circumstantial, but you need those people, you need those experiences, you need that music to really open your mind and for appreciation. Like, maybe I don't like that coffee or that musician in its entirety. I like it for like, hey, maybe it's a great pour over, or maybe it's a one-time shot that I really, really liked, or maybe that artist has a banging track or a good 16 bars. But that's it.
Yeah,
You
I
know
don't
what I
fuck with
mean?
them otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I totally know what you mean. And yeah, it's the willingness to try it. It's the willingness to give it a shot, and it's the willingness to be like, oh shit, I might have been wrong about that. Let me try it again. Let me listen to it again. Let me taste it again. Let me go out with this person again. And like sometimes,
Whoa. That's different.
but that's
Just
life.
kidding. I'm
That's
just
life,
kidding.
Kano. That's life, because it's like sometimes we just come to this preconceived notion of what we already think is absolute, but then we just open our minds to something else, and it's like, no, that wasn't bad after all, and happiness can come from it. So there
Love
you
it.
go.
Dude.
Uh-oh.
Bro, we haven't even, dude, no, I'm just like, we're approaching 2 hours.
Uh-oh.
And we haven't really even gotten into like a bunch
I'm
of
sure-
other shit.
That's what life is like when you're just having fun and you're just shooting the shit and you're just talking about things. But I mean,
Talk to me. Okay, real quick. Okay.
yes, sir.
Talk to me about, what do you see? I mean, Storymakers is about to open.
Yeah.
March. Tell me
Fingers
about it.
fingers crossed. We had a few snags along the way this week with some planning stuff, but hopefully, well, actually, not even hopefully, we will be open in some form or fashion within the next 3 weeks. That might be a combination of online and limited hours at the cafe, or online and full-time hours at the cafe. We're just working through some things right now with both planning and the city. So we'll figure that out over the next couple of days, but we'll be making that announcement soon on IG. I sort of danced around the question, sort of didn't answer the question, but Storymakers it's what I would like to see in the coffee world had I have walked into a random cafe in the middle of nowhere myself 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I'm not a coffee person in the sense of I didn't come up in the coffee industry as a barista. I didn't come up as a roaster. I'm just doing this as a labor of love, but I'm doing this as a pursuit or an outlet from other things. And every story in life, for men, I guess at least, comes back to a woman. Like 2012, 2013, spawning from that moment at Sidebar when I met my friend Victoria, I fell in love with beer, and I decided to open a brewery. And that brewery was not as successful as I would have liked it to be. But we were going to be the brewery in San Diego that did nothing but, or focused more so on coffee beers. Because as I was opening that brewery, I actually was dating someone and then later engaged to that person who loved coffee. Like, she was the person that took me in a coffee and tea collective for the first time. And introduced me to specialty coffee, actually. And that was like when my love affair with coffee started. And as I'm traveling to Portland and Seattle to check out breweries to do research for the brewery that we were starting, we ended up going to more coffee shops and more roasteries than we were going to breweries. And I was like, I never knew that this world existed. Have you ever heard of Espresso Vivace?
Mm-mm.
So it's like David Schomer is like the god of espresso.
Where is this?
Seattle.
In Seattle. Okay.
So David Schomer is like super, super well known in the espresso community, and he basically like modern day. And I've heard you talk about Italian, the Italian espresso culture.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the way that we think of espresso in America, all credit points back to David Schomer, basically. And I remember walking into Espresso Vivace like 2014, I think it was. And it's just rectangular bar, or I'm sorry, not a rectangular bar. It's like an octagon type bar. You walk in there and there's different baristas at different stations, and they just call you over. And never been there, but heard, hey, when you're in Seattle, you have to check this place out. So I walk up there and I'm like, hey, what are you guys known for? Let me have that. And it's a drink called the Cafe Nico. And he gives me the Cafe Nico, and I take a sip of it. I'm like, oh my fucking God, this is the most amazing cup of coffee that I've ever had. Or let me rephrase that. This is the most amazing drink that I've ever had, because we could argue what a cup of coffee is and what it's not. But it's like, this is the most amazing drink that I've ever had in my life. Like, I need more of this in my life. And I think we were in Seattle for like five days, if I remember correctly. At the tail end of the trip, on the last day, we're like, oh, we have to go back there. We have to get that Cafe Nico again. And we walk in. There's a different crew of baristas there. I get called over by this different barista, and she makes the drink, and it just didn't hit the same way. And I'm like, God, it's still good, but it's not as good as it was a few days ago. And I just like couldn't put my finger on it. Years later, I want to say this was last year or 2019, one of the two, but as recently as within the last 2 years, I'm on YouTube watching Chris Baca videos from Cat and Cloud up in
Isn't it Santa Cruz?
Yeah, Santa Cruz. Watching real Chris Baca, that's his handle on IG, but Chris Baca, one of the co-founders of Cat and Cloud. I'm watching a video, and he's talking about his journey into coffee. He's like, yeah, man, I used to watch David Schomer VHS tapes when I was learning how to be a barista. And I'm like, who the fuck is David Schomer? And I'm like, I'm one of those types of people where it's like I got to highlight something in a book when I'm reading something and I don't know what that is. So
Oh,
sorry.
You're good. You keep hitting that thing.
Yeah, it's like the lagers kicking in. We're going back to the old-fashioned moment, but I'm like one of those people where I've got to research something if I don't know what it is so that I have the proper context and I can understand it going forward. So I'm like, pause, who's David Schomer? And I go Google who this dude is, and I see a picture of him on the search results, and I'm like, wait a second, that's the dude from Espresso Vivace. And I'm like, oh shit, that's why it was different when I went there the first time, because it was actually him making, he's the fucking god of espresso, so people say. He's making this, and it's like, oh wow, that's why it was different. That's why it was amazing. And the reason why I bring this up in this fashion, it's like, even though I've loved coffee as far back as I can remember, waking up to that smell from my grandmother making her coffee, her chicory coffee, she's from New Orleans, making her chicory coffee in the mornings, waking up to that smell being my alarm clock. Like, I've always loved coffee. Like, there's always a fascination with it. But as I got older and came into form of like understanding the difference between commodity coffee and specialty coffee and all of the hands that go into it, I just started growing more and more and more of an appreciation, and started noticing that a lot of these stories were like intertwined and tied into something much bigger than coffee itself. It's like coffee is the reason why me and you were sitting across from each other, and like I've told you, I feel like I've known you much longer. So it's a communal aspect. But piecing that David Schomer story together, I was like, wait a second, I thought I knew coffee, but now I understand that there's so much more to know coffee than just how to say that tastes good, or this tasting note is there, or this is how you should brew a pour over, or this is the recipe or the ratio that you should use for an AeroPress, or, you know, I want a ratio of 1 to 2 in an espresso shot versus a 1 to 3. Like, it's a craft, it's an art. And the more I grew in
personal preference.
It's personal preference, exactly. Yeah. It's subjective. And it's like, as I began to grow more of an appreciation for it and understanding of it, I was like, well, how does that translate into a cafe? Because we've all been in that situation, even if we don't realize it, or if it's not on the forefront of our brain, where we've been in a coffee shop and we're ordering something and we're not quite sure what we're ordering, or we're not quite sure what we're going to get, but we feel like we don't want to ask because we don't want to be looked at as a stupid person or somebody that doesn't know. And it's like, I don't want that. I don't want that hipster. Or,
yeah, you can say it. No. You can say hipster. It's cool, bro.
Edit that. No, I don't. That's not what I was actually getting at. Because it's not just hipsters, bro. It's not just hipsters. I don't want that.
It's a cafe snob or a coffee snob.
Yeah, I don't want that elitist, snobby vibe when you come into Storymakers. If you don't know, ask. We'll tell you. And if we don't know, we're gonna find out. Like, we're not afraid to say, we don't know. We're just learning. Like, this is a product of us loving the same thing that you love. Yeah. And we're learning along the way, and we're not afraid to say, hey, Kano, can you show me how to do this? Hey, Elliot, can you show me how to do this? Hey, Scott, can you show me how to do this? Hey, can I shadow you? To be honest, bro, like, this Storymakers, the whole talking about it versus being about it, I alluded to this earlier. 3 years ago, living downtown in East Village, I'm driving down F Street, and I look off to the side, and I see the Tired Eyes logo on a storefront. I had followed Tyler Herrera on YouTube, the owner of Tired Eyes Coffee, prior to him opening his storefront. And I'm like, wait a second, that's Tired Eyes. Like, I know that. I follow that dude on YouTube. I got home, I hit him up, I DM'd him, like, hey, dude, I just saw that your logo's on a storefront. You're opening a cafe. If you need somebody to sweep the floors, do whatever, I will come help you, because I love coffee and, like, I want to do this one day. Just let me just fucking shadow you.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him, and he hit me back up, and he was like, yeah, dude, sure, hit me up next week, and we'll make something work. And it's that type of acceptance, that type of community that I love about this industry that we're in, but there's still some closed-minded people in there or out there. And it's like, I don't want to associate myself with them, but I want that acceptance. I want that, hey, if you like this, go check out Tired Eyes. If you like this, go check out Steady State. If you like this, come up to Oceanside, check out Still Mill. Like, there's no reason for me to say you must drink Storymakers coffee because this is the best coffee and this is the only coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some of our neighbors are of that mindset, and it's like, that's not for us. So we want an inviting space. We want to teach you what we know. We want to learn with you as you learn. We want to grow as you grow. And we just want to share our love for coffee with all of San Diego and all of the world. And it's only going to get better. Day by day, I promise you, our coffee will get better. It may not be the best, or it may be the best. It's all subjective, but it's going to get better every single day because that's our mission. But you will know that as you're drinking our coffee, you're supporting the producers that made it happen as we tell their stories. And every sip that you take and every bag that you purchase, you'll be able to know, hey, that Nicaragua red Catuay, it comes from Don Reynaldo in Nicaragua, and he's been farming for 20 years, and he has 5 kids. He's 55 years old.
Jesus.
You will know his story. You will love his coffee because you know his story, and that's what Storymakers is about.
That's popping. Dude, let's just send it right there. We're almost at 2 hours. Dude, there's so much we didn't cover.
You know what?
Holy shit! I know. I mean, the conversation definitely unfolded organically,
and that's how it should unfold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of stoked though that we didn't cover everything because I think that just gives it for more reason when you come back on. As you're saying this to me right now, all I'm thinking in my head is like, bro, I want you to come on during the opening.
I'd love to.
I want you to come on right during the. I know it'll be crazy, but like within the first week that you open, like, dude, how's it going? Let's talk about the real nitty gritty.
Yeah,
Let's talk about some other shit.
There's definitely real nitty gritty aspects of opening a business when you have no experience about it, you know. And I mean, you know, I'm not gonna turn this into a 3-hour podcast, but just the aspects of running a business when you're, you know, I've been in business before, but learning a brand new industry, learning a business, and not just doing it on your own, but having a partner. And like, I have my strong areas, Naz has her strong areas. We try to keep it 100 with each other, but sometimes keeping it 100 with each other can lead to tension. And it's just like, hey, look, we have a common goal. We're working toward that common goal. We're going to get this place open. And as long as you got my back, I got your back. But man, some of those nights, they can be sleepless. They can be like, damn, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this really what I want to do? Because, you know, it's
scary, bro.
It's very scary. It's very scary. And it's like, at the end of the day, you just got to hone yourself back in, reel yourself back in, and realize, hey, look, this is my purpose. This is my why, which is exactly why I wrote that document that I sent to you. I write my why. I look at it. I revisit it a week later, a month later, a year later. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still engaged. I'm still here. This is what I want to do. And I still love it. And regardless of the shit and the struggles that you encounter from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8:01 p.m., I'm still loving life, ready to do it again the next morning. And it's the process. And it's like you said earlier, it's time. You know, with time, comes a lot. And it's just, you got to wait for it.
I mean, I think also too is just being scared, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Dude, I'm scared every single fucking day.
1,000%. And I mean, I know you roll, so it's the same thing. It's like when you got some dude that, you know, like the way that you roll and the way that I roll. And for those of you, it's like, wait, hold on. Where's this podcast going? They're talking about rolling. Rolling is known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know, the way that I train, it's like I'm not training to compete. I'm training to save my life. And I don't mind rolling with somebody that's 2, 3 plus 100 pounds, because I can't pick the person that I walk out of my house and get into a life-ending confrontation with. So you have to be uncomfortable being, or rather you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's such a great mantra in life. And it's one that I live by. And, you know, I run ultra marathons. I try to push myself past my limits.
Do you really?
Yeah, 100%.
What are you running?
Right now,
Like
I'm
33?
no, actually. So this is the crazy thing. I was actually, pressed for time, as it would always be the case these days. But I'm actually looking at starting a 60-mile run from the San Diego Harbor up to Mount Laguna. It's exactly to the T. It is 60 miles.
Okay.
And I'm looking at making that a reality. Possibly, everybody's got their little thing.
Bro,
like
I'll run it with
Still
you.
Mill's got that. Okay, I'm gonna
I'll
hold you
run
to
this
that.
shit I run marathons.
Okay,
I do.
Okay,
I swear to God.
Caffeine and Green audience, you heard it right now. Kano just committed to
Bro,
it.
I will run 60 miles with you. I don't
Okay.
give a fuck.
So this came as a weird. I don't even know how to describe it. I was just down at my boy's place down in IB, Trident Coffee, if you guys aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, I know, Eric.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I was down with Eric, and I've been fucking with Eric since day one. Really appreciate what he's doing down there. But him knowing, going back to the mentor thing, Eric was the first dude in coffee that said, dude, whatever you need, let me know. I got you. And he sat down with me in the middle of a roast day, sat down with me, took an hour out of his time, and he basically said, hey, do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. And he was the first dude that steered me along the right direction. So much love and appreciation goes out to Eric for sure. But fast forward 2 years later, when Storymakers basically became a reality, he was like, dude, whenever you guys open, let me know, and we'll stage an event together, and we'll do an event together. And he's got a big biking crowd since he's down there right at the start of the bike path. I'm like, yeah, I fuck with
They
bikes.
definitely have an interesting following.
It's an interesting follow because it's like that interesting bridge between like bikers and some extreme athletes, but not necessarily extreme athletes. But then you got the military following as well.
But then he's only doing cold brew too.
Yeah, it's
so it's like
yeah.
there's no hot brew.
Yeah.
So it's like definitely different type
it's
of
totally a
coffee
different
vibe.
crowd. It's totally a different crowd. But what he's doing down there and what he's accomplished distribution wise and all of that. His canning
fast.
It's
fast.
Amazing fast.
Yeah.
Amazingly fast.
Big.
But just to tie that, into a nice little box and gift wrapped it was, he said, hey, whenever you guys open, we'll throw an event together. But knowing that his crowd is the biking crowd, and the event was going to be centered, or is going to be centered around people biking from Trident over to Storymakers, I'm like, that's a pretty cool idea. But like, what does our demographic look like?
It's going to be a long line.
hey, as long as
it's a line, it's all good.
As long as that line extends toward the taco shop, I'm good. Not the other way.
Yeah.
We don't want people to have second thoughts and like, no, we're just going to go here instead. And for those of you who know where we're at, you know what I'm talking about. That being said, now it's like, we got to have our own niche. Everybody has their niche. Here we are at Steel Mill, and I'm looking at the skateboards, and I love it. But it's like, what do I love to do? I love to run. So I'm looking into staging this ultra. It's from the San Diego Harbor all the way up to Mount Laguna, exactly 60 miles. If you run it with me, we should be able to finish it in about 7.5 hours.
Yes.
No,
fucking down, son.
Let's do it.
I'm so down.
So I'm working on that, but you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And,
Yes.
when you run marathons, not even ultras, not even marathons. When you run 5Ks, like after that first mile, it's
not no 5Ks.
Hey,
you have to do a half if you're gonna fuck with me. Like, yo, son, like, come on now.
Baby steps, Kano.
Baby steps my ass. Yo, 5K, nah, son. Anybody can run a 5K. You can train for like a month and run like a mile a day, and you can do a 5K.
I don't disagree with you, but some people are like, oh, you want to go run a race with me? Yeah, sure, let's do it. Okay, what are we gonna run? Oh, let's go do Badwater. Wait, what's that? No. I thought you meant like a 5K. Oh, okay. You're not there yet. Let's work up to it.
But see, that's the thing is like, again, Leov, like I talk about her ad nauseum, but it's like when the reason we started hanging out is because she wanted to start running.
Yeah.
And she would not even be able to do like a full 3 miler like without it like stopping and walking. And now this girl can run like 8-10 miles like no problem. Nah, like I don't believe that people aren't capable of doing these things. Like I've seen it firsthand. I've trained with people firsthand. Like it's not that you can't do it. It's a matter of dedication and how willing you are to put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
1,000%. As someone who instructs on running, I remember to this day, I'm running, kids next to me trying to pace me, and he looks over at me and he's like, sir, what's the secret to running faster? And I just fucking look at him and I'm like, run faster. And the look in his eyes was just like he had just saw a ghost. He's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
It's cardio, bro.
But then I just took off.
Yeah, you just got to go.
And it pushed him past that comfort zone. And after I took off, he caught up to me. And I'm like, see, run faster. That's it. And you just got to be willing to do it, and you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Always.
100%.
Jeff, we're going to end it there. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. I can't wait till I finish your edit. Like, now I'm super excited. But I really want...
That makes me happy.
I want the 60 miler to become a reality. I've been looking for an ultra to do to break out of my marathon race. I've been talking about doing a 50.
Yep.
Like a 50K, which is like 33 miles. But I'll do 60. Fuck it. Let's go.
You know, it's a great teaser for the second episode, because I'll tell you on the second episode, or hey, I did tell you that there will be a Storymakers podcast. So maybe
there's gonna, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have you back on.
Okay,
we'll have you back on. We'll do something like, it'll probably be, I imagine you'll be after my pop up that I'm gonna do for Caffeine and Green, so we could talk about like what happened after the pop up. Hopefully you can come by the pop up.
I will definitely be at the pop. It's March 5th, right?
March 12th.
Okay,
March 12th now. Yeah,
okay.
I confirmed it today. So March 12th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Side Yard Barbecue in Barrio Logan.
Right down the street.
Yep. But yeah, come through. It's going to be Caffeine and Green and Marco Maestoso. But come through, and then we can talk about that, and then we'll talk about your grand opening, and we'll see how you're doing. And then we'll actually get into like what else you really... Dude, we've talked for 2 hours.
I love
2
it.
hours, and we haven't even got to like who you really are.
You know, I've been... For 14 years, hey, another teaser. For 14 years, I've been living that life of how to like push away from what I actually do. Hey, what were we talking about again? You know, being on airplanes. So what do you do for a living? Yeah. Where are you going? Like, it's an interesting story, but I'm the master of detracting from that. But
I mean, you didn't even detract from it, because what we talked about was so away from what you really do. But it was 2 hours worth of conversation. So it's like, it's not like it was like we strayed.
Organic is the way to go, and not to have that cliffhanger of an ending again, because we keep saying we're going to end here. But on the note of your pop-up Kano, here's one that's going to just be like a jaw dropper for possibly the coffee industry nerds out there. I would love to talk to you either between now and the next episode, or on the next episode, or whenever. But I'm actually playing with the idea of having roasters feature their coffees at Storymakers that are not Storymakers coffee, just to put people on the map that may not have that opportunity. So maybe
a rotating roaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have Caffeine and Green be the first.
Dude, let me know. I'll throw you some bags. Let's do it. Let's
don't-
get it popping.
I don't want bags to be thrown. I want you to show up and you represent who you are.
Oh, bro, I'm down. I'm so down.
'cause-
That'd be fucking
yeah,
down. I'll fucking stand there and like talk to people, do some pour overs, like pull some shots.
There we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
let's
I'd
pop
love
it.
to have you be the first.
Let me
So,
know. I'm 100% down. Dude, we'll do the espresso thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find Storymakers at Your Storymakers on Instagram or storymakers.com.
Your YOUR.
YOUR
Storymakers.
Storymakers, and that's STORYMAKERS. So at Your Storymakers on Instagram. You can find us at storymakerscoffee.com. And if you have been slightly interested in my rambling throughout this podcast, you can find me at The Real Jeff Rambo on IG.
Yes. All right, my G. We're exactly at 2 hours
Solid.
right now.
120 minutes, 120 miles coming to an ultra marathon near you.
Dude, I'm so down. All right, brother. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have you back on. We'll talk about everything that's unfolded in the last couple of weeks, and maybe we'll do it here again, or dude, maybe we'll do it at your shop, because you have a lot of room there.
Hey.
Like, it would be nice for a podcast. We'll see how it goes.
Whatever makes you comfortable, whatever makes you happy, I'm down.
My G. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Peace.
Later.
Yes, thank you so much, Jeff. That was an amazing conversation, and I have to say, he brought up some good questions about the top 5 Bay Area rappers. Real talk. Anyways, thank you again, Jeff. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and I wish you the best of luck in the grand opening of your new shop in the Barrio. When it's open, you guys should definitely cruise by. And also, guys, I just want to say thank you to all you amazing people out there every single week who continue to support Caffeine and Green by listening, buying coffee, whatever. I see y'all. I appreciate every single one of you. And also, guys, if you haven't already, head over to caffeineandgreenroasting.com today. Check out that Issa blend. Check out that Victory Lap. And also, If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you know we stream it on every platform and you don't want to miss Caffeine and Green each week. So again, guys, have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Show love to everybody, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.